Hello, I'm Anti-Derivative Jill, and this is Indefinite Lunch and Infinite Combinations number 36. And today I'm here with Pop Culture Curator and Scotty R37 to review the next episode in production order, which is Miri.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you.
Hi, everybody. Miri, you say? That's a pretty name.
Very pretty. So, I know.
All right, keep going.
I would like to make sure everyone remembers to also be subscribed to Pop Culture Curator. We have an animated series review show on Mondays at 8 p.m. Central.
Thank you.
And next week we'll be discussing the ambergris incident or element.
Incident?
Right. No, it was element. You're right. You're correct. Okay. And also make sure to subscribe to the Phantasmagorium show by Scotty R37 and his friends.
Thank you.
But I have no idea actually what he's doing.
Yeah, neither do I, really. We're either going to finish up an Inglourious Basterds review, or we're just going to jump straight to Desperado and finish off the Tarantino reviews all at once. But we do have something very exciting that we're going to announce whatever we do, and that'll be on Wednesday.
Well, I'm just always excited when y'all go live, so we'll see.
I hope, yeah, me too.
There you are in the chat. And also we have Snortopoopus. Q Burr. He says, hello, humans. And yeah, it's always great to see Snortopoopus. I'm going to try to write everybody down who's in the chat. And Snortopoopus is kind of a long name. There. So, for reference to the production of these episodes, all the facts I share come from the Star Trek 365 original series book by Paula M. Block and Terry J. Erdman. And of course, as many of you know, who the idea to use this text comes from my good friend Raquel Briggs, who's featured on the Clobberin Times channel. So you should subscribe to Clobby and also read Raquel's amazing science fiction short stories, which I'll put in the chat. And actually a physical copy of her book is going to be released on the 15th, she says. So I haven't seen any pre-orders for it, but I'm very excited for that. I can't wait to order it, because apparently, from what I know, you can order most of the stories in digital format on Kindle, but this physical book apparently is going to have one new story that you can't get digitally. So that's going to be really neat.
Well, and I would always say support the author by getting the physical media. It might cost a little bit more, but you get something from them.
That's right.
I don't know what the pricing is on Commander Briggs' book, so I don't want to speak out of turn.
I don't know either. I tried to look for a pre-order for it, but I couldn't find it. And Snortopoopus has a question. How many greps does it take to change a light bulb? Answer: none. There haven't been any working light bulbs on this planet for 300 years.
Yes, that is true.
They do have a working Bunsen burner.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because for some reason that didn't short out over 300 years.
Well, I would assume that the fuel for the Bunsen burner was on one of the shelves with many a bottle.
Well, and apparently it didn't sour, or a lot of them were gas operated. So, but I imagine that there wouldn't be any gas.
But if I remember correctly, right. But if it's ethanol, I don't know what the shelf life is on fuel of that nature. Good point.
Yeah, I don't think it's 300 years, but it's no big deal.
Well, they were working on a formula for prolongation of life, so perhaps they had already cracked the fuel barrier.
Well, not only that, but they had communications with the ship, so they could get whatever supplies they needed. Possibly.
I think that was more of a leftover, just automated transmission thing. I think it was radio. I don't know if they specified if it was subspace or if it was just radio, but it was an old style Earth distress signal, SOS.
Yes.
Yeah, but I meant that McCoy could get supplies from the ship transported
Yeah, but that was through
to get things
communicators.
to work.
Communicators? Yeah.
Right.
It's a very interesting episode, heavy in the science.
Heavy into science and also controversy.
Well, sure. Yes.
I can't wait to hear about it. I have thoughts, but I didn't know there was a widespread controversy.
Yeah, the BBC apparently banned this in a few other episodes. They thought it was a little too dark for audiences.
Huh.
Right. Okay. Do you know more about that?
Yeah. You want me to share it now?
Go on.
Yeah, because I'm going to start the review of the episode. So before that, I would like, so go ahead, please.
All right, let me get caught up
Well,
here. And
while we
also
refer
before
to
the
files.
also before the episode starts, I was hoping to cover a little bit from Inside Star Trek.
Okay, I'm okay with that as long as Herb Solo's vitriol for for the creator of Star Trek is not too on fire or anything.
I am here for the vitriol. I want to hear the.
I mean, he really seems to hate him.
I think that they had
this is by Herb Solo and Robert Justman. So
well, Robert Justman, he always seems sweet when you read from him. So I'm not too worried about him. It's just Solo.
I think that they had a very tumultuous working relationship, and he's
clearly
being frank. I don't think he's sugarcoating it, but I don't think it's vitriol.
I don't. Yeah, well, I kind of disagree.
All right.
But it's that's okay. I don't mind hearing from it because Herb Solo was also a very important person who helped give us Star Trek. So.
Jill, every time we bring this up, I adore Gene Roddenberry. I think he was a visionary. I think he created
he wasn't perfect.
Co-created one of my favorite things that has ever been made, but he was also a womanizing alcoholic drug addict. It's just a thing.
Well,
you have to accept it.
I'm not calling any of these people liars or anything. I do accept his foibles of humanity that he has, but
vices, not foibles.
It just seems a little bit one-sided. But anyway, yes, please. I do want to hear from it, though.
Yeah, I do too. I don't mean to go off against the great bird.
No, you're okay.
First, I'll speak of the controversy.
Yes.
Despite being transmitted by the BBC in the UK in December 1970, Miri was not broadcast again until the 90s. An official BBC statement from Sheila Cundy of the program correspondence section reads, after very careful consideration, a top-level decision was made not to screen the episodes entitled Star Trek the Original Series The Empath, Star Trek Whom Gods Destroy, Star Trek the Original Series Plato's Stepchildren, and Miri, because they all dealt most unpleasantly with the already unpleasant subjects of madness, torture, sadism, and disease. Apparently, when Miri was first broadcast by the BBC in black and white, several viewers wrote to complain about its content, and the BBC reviewed the remainder of the episodes, deeming the three mentioned before as being unsuitable. When the BBC came to restart its showing of the first season, having acquired color film prints, Miri and the others were omitted. In 1984, when the BBC decided to show Star Trek in prime time, these episodes were still omitted, despite the continuity announcer telling the audience that they would be beaming up the whole series. Clips from Miri were shown circa 19 other TV shows.
Oh, okay. So for some reason, Europe is really afraid of disease.
I was going to say it was more about.
I think it was because it was involving children too. I think they thought it was scaring the kids, maybe.
Well, and also, if it was the BBC, it's not that they're necessarily scared of disease. Although now you mention it, the special effects for the disease are a little graphic for the time. But I would have said it would have had something to do with social order and the children killing the adults and the adults all gone and the
it was a combination of that too.
Yeah, like I think
that could definitely be an element too. Of course, that was done out of survival.
Yeah, but still, don't question the aristocracy.
Well, those we're both we're both only speculating because I guess they don't. They only said sadism, and they did mention the disease,
Mhm.
and I guess the sadism is the murder, but they're not being very clear about why they banned this episode.
It is a
It's weird.
terrifying. There are terrifying moments in it, though. Like
Sure.
there were parts that I was just like, that is super creepy, even for Star Trek.
Yeah, I hadn't seen this episode in a long time. Had I seen it sooner, I might have talked about it for my Halloween episodes.
Yeah,
I noticed in your Halloween episode you didn't bring up Cat's Paw.
Yeah, we did. You didn't
we
watch
talked about it.
the
Oh, you
whole
did?
thing because we definitely did.
Okay, sorry.
I didn't bring
missed
up
it
any
because-
pictures. I didn't put any
Okay.
pictures up of it, but we talked about it
Gotcha. Thank you.
for an extended period of time. I think about 15 minutes.
Well, we specifically talked about the marionette aliens, the little puppet
But
guys.
I think I avoided going through a whole thing with it because we're gonna have a whole review of it eventually. So I didn't want to blow it all up.
Right, and I was working that day, so I didn't catch the whole stream. So sorry about that.
Mhm. No, that's
Oh.
okay. I think it's one of the later ones that I reviewed after we went over Red Dwarf.
Oh yes, I do recall the Red Dwarf. I still haven't seen it.
Oh, and
this-
also
go ahead.
hello to Edge of Time and
Oh,
Herc
boy.
130.
Hey, Herc.
And so, what did you have to say?
Well, welcome to for those of you in the chat, welcome to the show. I really appreciate it. Good to see you here. But I wanted to cover was how Gene Roddenberry was christened with the moniker of Great Bird of the Galaxy.
Oh, this sounds nice.
I think it's fairly gentle. Shouldn't hopefully not offend anyone.
Well, I'm not afraid of being offended. I just want to make sure that things being said are honest and truthful and
They
not
called him-
just hurtful for no reason.
They called him the Great Bird of the Galaxy because he was high all the time. He was just flying everywhere.
Yeah,
I hate that guy. He always had a cowlick and his tag was sticking out of his shirt.
Well, I'm hoping these two people kept each other in check so there wouldn't be any exaggeration, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget, Robert Justman came back for The Next Generation, so there was still a working relationship with Gene Roddenberry.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. It says there was no one else on staff to handle the production workload. The immense demands of writing and producing Star Trek put enormous pressure upon both Gene Roddenberry and Bob Justman, a pressure that knitted them together in an enduring relationship. Bob says, Gene always delivered his last-minute rewrites at the very last minute. The revised pages with lots of penciled Roddenberry scribbling out in the margins were immediately sent to a mimeograph house down the street on Melrose Avenue. Stencils were typed, the script was mimeographed overnight, and it was delivered to us the first thing the following morning. On July 27, 1966, I sent a letter of appreciation to Ed Leavitt, owner of the Mimeo service. I closed the letter by writing, "May the great bird of the galaxy deposit stardust in your rapidly thinning locks." Copies of my letter went to Gene Roddenberry and Herb Solo. Later that first season, I felt a lackadaisical feeling that had begun to pervade the production. It needed correction since we still had a mountain to climb and couldn't afford to slow down, either physically or mentally. I didn't want to come down hard on any particular person or department, so I jokingly threatened that the great bird of the galaxy, Gene Roddenberry, would fly over and deposit cosmic doo-doo on them if they didn't shape up. After that, Gene was the Bird. It became my personal nickname for him, an affectionate way to address him. Bird, we need your rewrite now, or feeling okay, Bird? You look a smidgen tired. Why don't you take 10 minutes off and rest up a bit? Gene liked his new name and used it in the second season memo that he sent to Gene Kuhn that read, "Dear Encino Fats, reference your comment the other day. I should give you a memo on Bob Bloch's script for Wolf in the Fold. I gave you a memo on it. In fact, a splendid memo, one which I would not have thought would be so easily forgotten by one who professes to admire incisive writing and clear thought. Yours very truly, the Bird." The name stuck to him for the rest of his life.
Nice.
And that's it.
Ah, that's awesome. I enjoyed that one. That was great. And about previous things that were said, not today. Zorn Poopus says all that sounds like a typical clash of creative egos, and that's an important point to remember too.
Yep.
I like that. And this was a healthy way to deal with that, is a little nickname that Jean actually ended up enjoying. That's fun. And hello in the chat to Philip Gaming and NB Geeks Bar and Grill. Interesting. You changed your name a bit. I don't know how long ago you changed that name, but I noticed it now.
Hey, Phil. Hey, NB. And did I get to say Snortopoopus? Hi, Snortopoopus.
Now you did.
It's one of my favorite things to say. It's just a fun word and a lovely name, a very pretty name.
Agreed.
Ugh.
Yeah. And so this episode, Miri, first aired on October 27th, 1966. It was written by Adrian Spies and directed by Vincent McBeatty.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Him again. Okay, so names are... I'm starting to remember names. I'm like, is this the right name? Because I remember that name.
And I'm going to point out a couple of moments in here that I thought were just superbly directed.
Oh, great, because I did none of that. I'll actually start with a bit from the book just because it adds some historical context that I would have missed without reading it. It says here... it says page 76. Pundits of the day called it the generation gap. During the 3-year period that Star Trek was in production, a unique generational conflict found sociological footing. Burgeoning baby boomers began asserting themselves politically, just as events of the day, an unpopular war in Vietnam, the rise of psychedelic drugs, the popularity of rock and roll, the immediacy of television news, united them in an unprecedented manner. The establishment saw these young people as challenging and confrontational, dubbing them in their activities counterculture. The boomers responded defiantly, tossing back slogans such as question authority and don't trust anyone over 30. Schisms between parents and children, teachers and students, administrators and young voters were not new, but this period of social unrest was far more widespread than ever before, which inspired screenwriters in search of subject matter. Miri, writer Adrian Spies, drew inspiration from current events, the generational gap between Kirk, the landing party's ostensible father figure, and the self-sufficient children, and from William Golding's novel, Lord of the Flies. It's easy to correlate the only fear of violent grown-ups, with flies, little ones, frightened of the unknown, which is realized in the book as the beast. While the novel paints a vivid image of how separation from societal restraints and parents can turn even the most innocent children into killers, Miri provides a softer but equally cautionary tale for contemporary audiences. So that's the first reading.
And that generational gap, I think you really can sort of feel, and especially in the main only, he is wearing like a military uniform, almost jokingly, just
True.
as a jacket that he found.
Yeah, he probably didn't earn those ranks, did he?
No.
Well, no, and what's interesting too is Michael J. Pollard, the actor, was 27
Yes.
at the time, and he clearly looked older, and he even had sideburns.
Mm-hmm.
So if puberty is supposed to start the disease, you figure he would have already had it long before Miri, right?
Well, maybe he had some green blood.
Yeah, that's possible. Kim Darby was
not
19
really.
when they
You're
filmed
right.
this episode.
Right.
Yeah. And
they made her look younger. They actually succeeded.
She had a face like that. She looked younger than she was. She also starred in True Grit with John Wayne, and apparently he didn't have a very good experience with her. Mm-hmm. She was in the original True Grit with her, John Wayne, and Glenn Campbell, which was an odd trio. Mm-hmm. And I have a note here about Adrian Spies, the writer of this episode. It says Adrian Spies considerably padded out his script with lengthy scene descriptions and stage directions. And when they were edited out, the episode was found to be approximately 10 minutes too short, leading to a late rewrite of the script by Stephen W. Karabatsos. This, combined with the generally poor reaction to the story, led to Gene Roddenberry deciding to never let Spies write any more stories for the show.
Oh, wow. That's harsh.
Right. So this is the one and only episode we get from Adrian Spies.
Okay. Oh, that's a disappointment because he's not a bad writer. He was concise, I guess. I would think that that's like a benefit. Like he was able to get the story in a shorter
Right.
time.
Well, what I'm thinking is right. He did a little when they say that too many lengthy scene descriptions and stage directions. He's trying to be very, very thorough on what he wants his story to look like. But
Yes.
as they say in Hollywood, each page equals 1 minute, or each page of dialogue equals 1 minute of screen time. So that was the problem. Is I guess is he spent a little too much on description and not enough on dialogue or scenes. But I
Oh.
thought
And
that-
also when it
Too
comes
much-
to
Too much bonk bonk bonk.
oh no, like
Right. they could have
and I
added a
think-
few more bonks.
pop culture, I think you're absolutely correct. There is a certain amount of I don't know, assertiveness in a screenwriter sometime when they decide that they're going to enter in all the stage direction as opposed to just setting the mood, the tone of the dialogue. But at that point, aren't you sort of stepping on the toes of the director?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, it gets to that point where you just pretty much lay out the characters and let the director do the rest.
Mm-hmm.
But
However,
I appreciate a storyteller with a vision.
as do I, but in terms of television, and especially in that era, as pop culture can attest in terms of his knowledge of sort of 60s productions, like it's I don't want to say meat grinder, but it is certainly it's a chocolate factory where everything is coming out a little too fast, and Lucy has to fill up her shirt. Like you have to get these things done quickly, and also don't tell me what to do. I'm the director. You're the writer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this
Well,
was also
maybe-
apparently a contention with Harlan Ellison because that's another thing he was upset about is there was a lot of stuff he put in there that they cut out, which he was not happy about.
Right.
But I think it was for the same reason.
Hmm. But at least in that case, he got a story by credit because the script was rewritten to match Star Trek because it didn't match Star Trek. And so I think in this case, maybe Adrian would be better off with the story by credit, and someone else should have maybe done the script and done it that way.
Now, from what I'm reading, I don't know if this is true, but from what I'm reading, out of the 8 episodes where Yeoman Janice Rand appears, this is the only one where she beams down to the planet.
Oh, is this the only time she goes to a planet? No, I guess so. That's really too bad.
Right, it says this
I
is
wish
only
that
one.
this.
It says this is only one of the 8 episodes in which Janice Rand appears, in which she leaves the Enterprise.
Okay, I wish we would have gotten more of her. I'm really upset that she had to get fired at this point in the series. I think it was this episode.
What it says here, it says during the Friday end of the week party on 26th of August, after filming this episode, Grace Lee Whitney claims to have been assaulted by a member of the show whom she identifies only as the executive in her autobiography, The Longest Trek, My Tour of the Galaxy, which I read. She was fired soon afterwards, strengthening her depression and alcohol addiction. Sad to say.
Yeah, that is sad. I wish instead that person, whoever hurt her, were fired instead of her.
And she was afraid to mention the name.
Yeah.
But just her bringing it up apparently was lethal to her career, which is sad. I mean, that's how it's sad that things used to be like that.
I don't like someone being involved in Star Trek and having done that to her. They should have gotten tossed out. Oh well.
I agree. Well, apparently whoever it was is very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately.
Right. So, but also, there's a couple people in the chat talking about their first times watching the original series. MB Geek says, my first view of TOS was on VHS in 1986. I was in the basement watching TOS, and family and I watched TNG when it came on each week.
Nice.
And Philip Gaming says, for me, I watched TOS on reruns as a small child in the late 80s when it ran in syndication right before TNG.
Very cool.
In the late 80s. I think I can speak for myself in pop culture when we say we're old.
I know. And it must be interesting, an angle of being introduced to TOS and TNG at the same time.
That would be cool.
That's interesting. Yeah. Very interesting perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Bird. Good to see you, sir.
Oh yeah, hello in the chat to Bird and Prey 5. Right down.
And also this episode, which you guys will see coming up, has a lot of children from the cast, except for Leonard Nimoy. He refused to let his children portray here.
Oh right. He didn't want them part of show business.
Right. So we have 2 of William Shatner's kids and 2 of Grace Lee Whitney's kids.
Huh.
And 2 of Greg Morris's kids. He's the guy who was from Mission Impossible. So the 2 black kids in here are from Greg Morris.
Who I assume was also black.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
just checking,
I'll
just
have a
making
bit
sure.
about him later on.
Okay, great.
Scotty, could you read this for me, please?
I'd be happy. If there was anything a bit creepy, Snortopupus Cuber says, it's hard to say it when it's the whole name. When Snortopupus says, if there was anything a bit creepy about the episode, it would have been the implication that Miri would have been much younger than she was cast or portrayed, i.e., just entering puberty. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess so. And
Oh yeah.
Right.
We'll get there when we get there.
yeah, we will.
Well, not only that, though, but I think, it didn't mention it here, but I think it was looking a little odd, the interaction with her really being, I guess you could say, a crush on Kirk when she's supposedly so much younger.
But I didn't mind a puppy love crush coming from Miri towards
Right,
Kirk.
and it was just a one-sided thing.
Well, yeah,
but
it was just one-sided, yes.
I don't know if Shatner was going for like fatherly.
I think that's how he was supposed to be. I think that was the direction.
It came off as a little too flirty for me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one thing too is before the rewrites,
it was a little weird.
The original script by Spies had a lot more interaction between Kirk and Yeoman Rand in this episode. They were supposed to be a little more romantic, but I guess they trimmed that out.
Which makes sense, and it does kind of shine through later on in the episode as well.
Yeah. Oh, and Chris Harris, hello.
Hey, Chris.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Miss Angel.
So then I'll bring out the slides here. Wait, this. No, this. And then
this.
There we go.
All right. Oh, and also I forgot to say, don't forget to look out for him. I hope you have a slide of him, but Johnny Farrell is going to be in this episode.
You tell me when you see him. I don't know.
I will. You'll never forget his eyes. There he is. See, he's just in Spock's armpit.
Right, he's taking over Uhura's role.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get a better shot of him later.
But we don't get Uhura, we don't get Scotty, we don't get Sulu in this one.
No, that's
the whole
correct.
bridge is gone.
But I think that's because they had to accommodate for the large amount of children's actors. They had to figure out who to pay.
Oh,
yeah, I think that was because a lot of it was budget. So yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah. All right. So instead of just having another Earth-like planet, we have a full-on Earth duplicate, even down to the Goldilocks positioning of the planet being the third star from its sun. And this planet
This was the first episode, apparently, which used the parallel Earth plot. And it was obviously to save money because they said it would have been too expensive trying to build an alien world.
Yes.
Yeah, but they have lots of other episodes where it's a different planet, but it just happens to look like Earth and just happens to have people that look like humans.
Yes, so, and apparently this is also only the second episode that was actually filmed outside in an exterior lot. The rest were done in the sound stages.
Okay, so this is just stepping stones to the other planets I'm talking about.
Well, and this, I specifically remember this sort of city street, if you will, backlot, obviously. It shows up again in Return of the Archons. Hey, Cinema Gulp.
Yep, it shows up in a few of the Star Trek episodes, but mostly it's famous because it is also known as Mayberry from the Andy Griffith Show.
Oh, I thought I saw Don Knotts.
Right, you'll see
Mayberry?
The Andy Griffith Show. It takes place in a fictional little town called Mayberry, and it stars which is Andy Griffith, Don Knotts, Ron Howard as a child, and Eddie Griffith plays a sheriff who is he's stationed. His office is in a courthouse, and the courthouse is invisible in this episode. So is Floyd, the barbershops, and the theater, and a few others set from it. This was all shot on the Desilu lot, and in one scene here, you can look in the background and you'll see the part of the set from Hogan's Heroes.
Cool.
Wow.
That's great.
So we're on planet Backlot this episode.
How fun. Yes. This planet has been sending out Earth-style SOS signals, despite there being no Federation colonies out here. And here's the first captain's log, stardate 2713.5. In the distant reaches of our galaxy, we have made an astonishing discovery. Earth-type radio signals coming from a planet which apparently is an exact duplicate of Earth. It seems impossible, but here it is. But there it is. But really, don't worry too much about that because this fact doesn't really play too much into the story. It's just a hook.
Mhm.
And
Now I have a
actually,
question. When you watched the Earth, did you try and pick yourself out? Like, I know we all live in North America, and I was like, where am I? Oh, there I am.
Well, you can clearly see the North American continent. You can see Florida.
Yes. I think,
yeah.
yeah.
So the very first time I watched this, I was fascinated how another planet could have the same continental configuration as our
Yeah,
Earth.
the land masses, right?
It's so preposterous. But no, I didn't try to pick myself out.
I was just like, where am I on this map?
Kirk at least admits that it seems impossible, and the book, of course, has something on it, which I guess I'll read now. But also, I want to say hi to Claude.
Hey, Claude.
Parrish.
Hey, Matt G. Did I say hi to Matt G?
Now you did.
Now I did. And Gorilla's here.
All right, Gorilla's here. Let me know if you want to join the panel, Gorilla. And he says, hey, everyone lurking, but I want to say this is the first actual F I give this episode, not a joke. Oh. Okay, so Claude says it's a prototype version from the Planet Builders in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Oh, right.
I'm
It's
fine
just
with
another
that.
computer trying to figure out the meaning of the universe. Thank you.
It's a crossover.
I accept this. Why not? It's about as good as any other explanation. But Edge of Time says, a vote for me is a vote for saliva flavored toothpaste.
The first time I read that, I thought it said salvia.
Oh my goodness.
I know. I'm sorry. It's early. I think this. Yep.
Yeah, and
Agrathian.
Sort of Pupus likes Claude's idea. He says, I think the planet was a backup supercomputer built by the
Magrathians.
Thank you.
We got to go to Magrathia.
Someone call Slarty Bartfast.
I told you wouldn't like it.
And MB Geek says he'd love to join one day to talk about TOS and stuff. Oh, sure. After the review, if there's time, I can send you the link so you can talk about your general experience with TOS. That could be fun. So, it in the vein of getting to that, let me talk about this duplicate Earth.
I feel like you guys are in libraries, and I'm just sitting here playing on a Game Boy.
No, but we need your Game Boy. Thank you.
Okay. Cheers.
So the book says, why does Miri's world look so much like Earth? And why do the streets that she and her friends play in look so much like the streets of any town USA, circa the mid-20th century? The word budget is extremely important in Hollywood. No genre-based television series, be it a Western, cop drama, or space exploration show, has ever had a budget large enough to create all of the paraphernalia so vital to the ideal look of a series, or so the producers say. In the 1960s, it was relatively easy to find a ranch with horses for actors to ride, or a city street in Los Angeles that could fill in for any U.S. urban center. Alien worlds, however, were not quite so common. So producers of science fiction series were forced to be creative, to tailor to their shows to what was easy to fabricate. And the producers of Star Trek instructed potential writers in the 1967 series guide. Be creative but practical. Remember Class M planets, a Star Trek term that designates planets with oxygen-nitrogen atmospheres capable of supporting life as we know it, will often be similar to many parts of Earth, with societies duplicating or intermixing almost any era in man's development. Jungle backgrounds exist on backlots. So what about primeval worlds? Or a pioneer Indian type culture? Lovely parkland exists locally. So do unusual, highly modern buildings. So do farms. And so did a ready-made City set, regularly used by the Andy Griffith Show and the Desilu Culver backlot in the Culver City neighborhood of Los Angeles. Available set, meet television production. Okay, so this is really written strangely. Available set, meet television production seeking available set. We now pronounce you planet, which apparently is an exact duplicate of Earth. Okay, whatever. That page is written in a very strange way. Sorry about that.
It was very concise and budgetary. All right, we need this, we need this, we need this. Okay, you do this, you do that, and then we're good. It's just it's another Earth.
Yeah, they're just trying to hammer it into the writers. If you can, just make it easy.
Yeah, but it's just weird because those, again, as mentioned before, they go into Return of the Archons, and it's not an identical Earth. It's, there's been sort of parallel Earth development. Isn't that a thing? Isn't that a theory that was hypothesized in another thing in Star Trek?
Yes.
I think that might be from Return of the Archons. I was looking for it in this episode and I didn't hear it. And so I don't know. But in terms of the continental composition, I do agree. They didn't necessarily have to hammer it so hard as to say, hey, look, there's Florida.
Yeah, so this planet somehow also had Pangea that broke up the exact same way.
Same way.
The tectonic plates just were magically the same. I have no idea what happened.
This is also the only episode where the title is in italics.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. I would never notice something like that. That's great. Thank you.
I wonder if it's in italics in the original.
Yes.
Okay.
And so Kirk sends a landing party to the distress signal coordinates down to what looks like a fallout devastation of what a 1960s town by Spock's estimate.
I can't believe I didn't even make the fallout equation.
Just everything's just all over the place. Reminds me of it.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting too that Spock says 1960. That was the year the Andy Griffith Show premiered.
Huh. But there was no nuclear war or anything. The world's just been disintegrating for hundreds of years.
Well, and didn't they say also that this that this disease was created, right?
Yes.
So
that's correct.
So that's similar to, almost dead on accurate with COVID.
Oh, topical.
Woohoo, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they expected that, but it pretty much is because COVID was created in the lab.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And also, if this is supposed to take place in the circa 1960s, according to Spock,
yes.
Why the car is circa 1920s and 30s, right?
Oh, I would never even notice that. That's a good point. Yeah, if you notice any discrepancies like that, let me know. But I don't know. Maybe they just liked classic cars.
Or maybe the cars were sitting around for 40 or 50 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so, I continue. Automotives is not my forte.
Me neither. But I am good at saying hello to SP4H. Hello.
Hey, Sporf.
Oh, and I guess there's a few chats here too. Maybe Claude says maybe it was just Earth 2. Did anybody check for Justice Leaguers listening to the Andrew sisters?
The Chattanooga Choo Choo?
No, it's been a long, long time.
And Claude says Scotty R37 just gave more thought to this episode than the original writers did. He often does, so I gotta keep him around.
It's the benefit of hindsight. When you're creating something whole cloth and you make mistakes, I give you credence. And if I can sit here in 2022 and make fun of a show from 1966, I am not smart.
I disagree. Snarpoopa says they used that a lot in Star Trek. They gave it the name Bread and Circuses, Hodgkin's Law of Parallel Planetary Development.
Right. Thank you, Snortopoopas.
And Claude says tricycles are tough, but yeah, that's right. And this is also one of the props that you come across in Fallout often is a tricycle. And it's actually very subtle, but I like the little scene here where they're examining the tricycle. You see the personalities of the trio here. Kirk just observing it, handing it to Spock to analyze it, and he's just
Right.
like, seriously, why did you give this useless
Right.
thing
Why'd
to
you hand this to me? It's like they're very fascinated over this tricycle, right?
me?"
Well, and I thought it was an interesting character development between the three of them, just in terms of the performances. Kirk goes over to it, checks it out, and is like, "It is so weird to see a tricycle on another planet," which I agree. And then he gives it to Spock, and I agree with you guys. It's like, why did you give me this hunk of metal? What a weird thing. Anyway, it's obviously decaying.
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
understand.
So he
And then
hands
they
it to
give it,
McCoy.
and then they hand it to McCoy, and McCoy is like, "This is a representation of the death of a child. I'm going to put it back very gently where it was before because I'm afraid of what happened here."
Yeah, I think he spins the wheel. He almost seems a bit nostalgic with it, and wonders, like you said, about what happened to the owner of the tricycle. And I don't know. He's actually so distracted. His concentration's only broken when there's a loud yelling from this guy.
Claude Pear says that could have been Opie's trike. Well, speaking of Opie, here he is.
Yeah, he's now a man, very deranged and in a violent state.
Right.
First, they had to subdue him.
Right. No
From-
Vulcan nerve pinch here. Just 3 punches to the face will do.
I was wondering about that, why they didn't do a nerve pinch here, and
Yeah.
but they subdue him physically.
Kirk beats the crap out of him.
Eventually, right.
And the tricycle scene is completed here when the man claims ownership of the tricycle. He's upset it's broken. So, of course, Bones is the one with the compassion for the sick here, saying, of course someone will fix it.
And this is where they realize it's a child.
Mm-hmm. That he at least has the brain of a child,
Right.
and he passes out.
And I think he dies.
Yeah, he dies. You're right, he
Okay.
dies. But he doesn't say he's dead. He says it's dead.
Yeah.
It's dead, right, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And they forgot to tell the actor to sit still when you're playing dead.
Well, it was, I also, when
I
this
think that's
actor,
probably why my brain wants to say he passed out, because he
Right.
doesn't look
Because he's
like
moving,
dead.
clearly moving, right, after they say he's dead, right.
well, and it's funny because just before he dies, he considers where his head is going to land and rests it gently.
Yes, he does.
And I was like, you did not suddenly die. You were a person who didn't want to bonk your head.
Bonk bonk.
Exactly.
So let's see what's going on in the chat here. And, oh yeah, that's probably Yoki's strike. Oh no.
Not the real Opie.
Edge of Time says, is Scotty R37 the Scottiest Scotty? In the sense that Rick R137 is the Rickiest Rick. Oh, like from Rick and Morty. And what does that mean for the Citadel of Scots?
It means I am king of the Citadel of Scots. Kneel before Zod. Moving on.
Mm-hmm. I've seen your avatar for that one. Mr. CCDV says, to be honest, most of the OT is B. Okay, I don't know. Hi,
Yeah,
Mr.
no.
CCDV.
Oh, I think
you
that
know what this
they're.
is?
Yeah, I do. I kind of agree with Mr. CCDV. I don't think that it's a negative by any stretch of the imagination. To be honest, most of the original trilogy is a B at best. And I would say yes.
What trilogy? Trilogy of what? Trilogy of
No,
mystery,
sir, not
right?
original trilogy, original series. I think is original series is meant to be said.
Oh, okay.
Nah. SP4H says, spoiler alert. Oh, yeah. Yeah, spoiler alert for a 56-year-old series. Yes. Oh, unless the spoiler alert is that Opie is dead? No, Opie's not dead.
Opie is not dead.
I don't
Ron
even know.
Howard
I don't
is
even watch
still
this show,
alive.
so I can say it without worrying
Yeah.
about what's going on.
And Ron Howard never had a head of hair like that.
Oh, sure he did. Come on, I saw Happy Days.
Well, he had happier days back then, I guess, compared to now.
Why? What's wrong with Ron Howard? What happened to Ron Howard? Can we talk
He has
about it
3
next week
hairs
on our
on the
new
top.
show?
He has 3 hairs on the top of his head. He's like Homer Simpson now.
That's true, but that's why he wears those styling baseball hats.
Yes.
And yeah, so McCoy notices that this person has a very high metabolic rate, as though he's aged 100 years in a few minutes. And then they hear a noise and run directly to it.
Yes. Oh, and don't forget, we did bring down 2 security officers, one of which will go on, but I'm looking out for the other guy. There's a receding hairline guy, and then there's the tall guy.
Well, I have a bit of info. This is one of the rare episodes where no red shirts die.
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
they do go on a camping trip or something. I don't know where they go for half this episode, but
Yeah, right. They don't die, but they just like go somewhere.
But receding hairline guy was in Charlie.
Right.
Maybe they're looking for a bathroom.
You're right. At one point, Spock's just like directs them in a direction. Wordlessly, he points them that way. Get out of the episode, and so off they go.
Well, and it's also, there is a thing with the communicators. They talk to the ship a lot, but they don't talk to each other, which I think is why they all decide to willy-nilly leave their communicators just laying around the office, because there is a point, but we'll get there when we get there. But yeah, anyway, I do enjoy both of the security officers. One I will recognize in the future. I don't know about this guy. Let's call him Warren.
Okay. I don't know his name either.
So,
but here's Miri.
Here's Miri, played by
Kim Darby.
You tell me.
Kim Darby.
What's her name?
Kim Darby. I had a crush on her when I was a kid.
Kim Darby. Okay. And she's 19. She's playing a younger teenager.
Right. She played in a fantastic, excellent made-for-TV horror movie called... it'll come to me. I was thinking about it just a few minutes ago, but it's where she's being terrorized by these little demons that come from under the house. Don't be afraid of the dark.
Oh.
Don't be afraid...
Guillermo del Toro eventually remade it, and I recommend the original version better.
Nice.
Okay.
Well,
cool.
If Kim Darby's in it.
Yeah, Kim Darby, her version is better. Don't be afraid of the dark. With her and William Demarest, who played Uncle Charlie from My Three Sons.
Yeah, okay. And but here she's afraid of adults. She calls them grups because she knows them to be, she's afraid of them because she knows them to be loud and violent. And anyone who isn't a grup is an only. And this is her understanding of things is kind of weird. So I have to give away some things. Otherwise, it makes no sense to talk about it.
Spoilers.
So the way that Miri understands it is that the grups got sick in the before time, and the onlys successfully hid away from them. But she doesn't realize that all of the onlys become grups and die.
Well, yes. Should I expound on that now?
If you like.
Okay. So, and the deal is that the inhabitants of this planet were seeking out life prolongation that is precipitated by the infection of multiple diseases, which I can only understand to strengthen the cells of the people who lived here, and it worked on kids.
A kind of immunity by fire.
Exactly, and so they do have it. The children that we are going to see, this is complete spoilers. The children that we are going to see, they are 300 years old at least, and the adults, because they had glandular post-pubescent. What do you call it?
Right, you're right. This is spoilers for the whole review.
For the whole reveal of the science.
Yeah.
So the children are old and the adults die quickly.
And McCoy right here doesn't know any of that yet. He just guesses that a plague wiped out this planet.
Yeah.
Except for the children. And like we've said at the top, it is a bit weird when Kirk calls Miri, tells her she's pretty. But at this point, I guess the whole point of it is that he's trying to be kind to someone who hasn't had that kind of kindness from an adult for hundreds of years.
Yes.
So he doesn't want to be the kind that scares her.
Right.
And I appreciate that this little action scene that we get here with Spock and the red shirts.
And they still have their belts.
Yes.
And this is where Spock waves them off in that direction.
And this is part of the direction that I thought was absolutely brilliant. Like, there are 2 shots in this show where that's it, where it goes from a single shot, perfect transition from exterior to interior. And it's like, that was really, really cool. And this is one of them, just in terms of the framing. No CGI, no nothing, just hit your mark, Leonard. And they wipe off the center, and then he comes towards it and opens it up. There's a little bit of cross-cutting to see. Oh, yeah, no, we see him coming. And I thought that it was just captivating. And it was like, I can't believe they, like, that was, I think that this is excellent television direction for 1966.
Yeah, nice. But for some reason, the action scene that I liked, I didn't get any screenshots for, because I guess I was enjoying the scene too much.
Is it the rocks?
Yeah, the rocks. I liked
Okay.
how Spock pulled back the red shirts to protect them, and then used his arms as an umbrella to protect himself from the rocks.
Right.
Yeah, that the children are tossing.
Right. Well, and also, and this is the part, because usually we, like, so far, because we've been going in production order, we've been paying attention to quote unquote emotional outbursts from Spock. And I thought it was an interesting choice for him to yell for the guards as opposed to use his communicator for the guards. And I thought that that was part of the setup as to why they have willy-nilly left them around the laboratory.
Maybe he yelled because it was faster than using the communicator, possibly.
That was the only thing that I came up with. Yeah. I was like, okay, I guess.
Also, the director, McVitie, directed this episode from a wheelchair. He had broke his leg previously the week before in a skiing accident.
Oh. Well, that actually harkens back to something that Cinema Gulp said. Cinema Gulp said, "Good morning, Jill and crew. I stole my grandma's wheelchair. Is playing on the radio, and it's a good day so far."
Oh, well, great.
Well, no, but if we're going to bring up wheelchairs, why not?
Yeah, okay, so I did get pictures of this scene.
Yay.
Of Spock with the red shirts. And using his arm there.
Obviously, the same alley from City on the Edge Forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Spock reports what just happened to Kirk, who asks Miri if she knows where the doctors used to work, and she does.
But this is also, just before we move on from your favorite scene, this is part that sets up the creepy thing, is that you hear the children, then there's movement, then the rocks come down, and then nya 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 nya, we're gonna get you. And I'm like,
oh, the terrifying chants of the children. Very good point. Agreed. Yeah, that is scary. So Kirk continues to build a rapport with Miri, and she's really taking to his gentleness, but I don't know why he has to say that he likes her. Being nice should be good enough. So it's just a little much, but
again, I think that the intention is to be fatherly.
I think so too.
But he just lays it on a bit too thick, and I'm just like, dude, what are you doing?
I agree completely. It is a bit too thick. I guess he's just used to acting a certain way, and he just didn't quite find the balance here. But I was an adolescent girl too, and it's definitely a thing that to have an attraction for an older guy you can't be with. But this attraction is one-sided here. It's just Miri, and Kirk is supposed to be completely oblivious to it, and like you said, trying to give more of a fatherly kindness to her, especially the way he orders her around the whole episode, like sharpen these pencils, clean the desk.
No, but I don't think that. I think that is an excellent representation of Kirk being a captain. And I don't think he's abusing his relationship with Miri in that. I think that Captain Kirk's primary duty as a captain, whenever he doesn't know what to do with someone, he just tells them to do something.
Well, I saw it as
I think he may have been. I think he may have also been doing that to distract her because she was so worried about what was going on.
I don't know what to do. Oh, yeah. And when I say I don't know what to do. Exactly. Yeah. Everybody should have a purpose so that we're all going towards a common goal. And if I don't have a direct purpose for you, I will give you something to occupy you so that you feel like you're contributing.
Mhm.
Uh-oh.
And it's at that moment that she notices a mark on his hand and starts crying that she knew it would happen. It'll spread all over you, and you'll yell, and you'll try to hurt everybody, and then you'll die. I knew it would. I knew it would, she says. And then we get a pretty long captain's log here. I love these captain's logs.
Nice.
2713.6, the building Miri led us to also housed an automatic transmission station, which sent out the signal that drew us to this planet. We also discovered something else, that the blue blotches, characteristic of the unknown disease, had appeared on each of us, with the exception of Mr. Spock. There was a well-equipped laboratory in the building. Dr. McCoy took tissue samples of each of us in an attempt to isolate the organism responsible.
Well, and and that comes up later in very playful dialogue that I enjoy between Kirk and Spock.
Mm-hmm.
But I do. Claude Parrish says he's got Kirk peas, a variation of space herpes.
Oh, and Gorilla says the kids would have died. There's no way they would have survived 300 years. And, well, the way they're living, the way they're acting, what they're doing, I can agree.
Well, the question is food.
You're right. But right here, McCoy's in his element. All he needs from the ship now is a biocomputer and a portable electronic microscope. And McCoy guesses that the illness doesn't infect Spock because of his green blood, and Spock responds, being a red-blooded human obviously has its disadvantages.
And there's no pushback. There, like, even McCoy is like, all right, this time.
And
Yeah.
This episode marks the first appearance of the biocomputer.
Yeah. And actually, Bones is more annoyed by what Spock says about the microscope.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with him.
His blood.
And that's sort of a failed attempt at Spock sort of emulating Kirk's command style. It's like, oh, okay, well, if let's just talk about what you're doing. And then McCoy looks at him and he's like, thanks, man. I know how this works. I don't care.
But it's okay. Spock will have his chance again on Galileo 7 to
McCoy is the hero. McCoy is the hero of this episode, by the way.
He is. And you said this is the first time we see the biocomputer?
Yes, that's correct.
That's cool. So Kirk is reading and finding out that the scientists here are working on the intermediate experimentation project on life prolongation, like Scotty mentioned before.
In great detail.
Yes, in great detail. And
they really say it a lot, though. Like, McCoy goes, life prolongation. Spock's like, life prolongation. Everyone is just like, get this through your head. These kids are old.
Mm-hmm. Life prolongation.
I think that they're trying to drive home that Kirk is not necessarily being as creepy as you think, because it's a 300-year-old lady.
And when Pop Culture Curator said the problem is food, I thought about canned food, and Snortopoopus Cuber said they lived on cans of Beanie Weenies.
Yeah,
and Twinkies.
Oh, that's not bad. No dentistry,
right.
But you're good.
So the captain's log, Dr. McCoy's biocomputer and portable electronic microscope have been beamed down from the Enterprise. They will be used in conjunction with computer banks on board ship. And so here's where they solve a bit of what has been going on here. The before time as Miri.
It's Farrell.
Oh, right. You wanted to see Farrell. That's
Johnny Farrell.
I just saw him, by the way, just last week in an episode of Chips.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he was driving a van.
Oh, here
kind of a downgrade from a starship.
Yeah, I guess so, right?
But he doesn't drive. He didn't fly.
Sure, he's the navigator in that episode.
Well, that's right. He is
Mud's
a navigator.
women.
So
he's
he helps. Navigator. Okay, that's true. So navigators are also pilots.
Right, who was on vacation apparently.
Mm-hmm. She's on shore leave.
Right.
So the before time, as Miri called it, occurred 300 years ago when the adults got sick and died, leaving only the kids. But as Spock says, children become adults. And Spock rightly guesses that the disease occurs when the children hit puberty. And Spock gets some important information from the ship to help McCoy come up with the cure. And
Maybe-
he also... Okay.
Maybe that's part of the reason why it was sort of relegated as being controversial, is the liberal use of the word puberty in 1966 as well.
You know, I didn't even consider that being a thing that would concern anybody. It's just
No,
it's just a biological fact of life. But you're right. They're
Well,
just,
in
they may not be...
1966, they didn't throw around, menstruation as a descriptor.
Yeah. Well, they don't talk about that here either, but it is a thing.
You got to come to Antiderivative Jill's channel if you want. No, never mind. I'm not going to finish that sentence.
Mm-hmm. Well, if we're going to
In
talk
this
about
episode,
that,
at least.
I need tiger stripes.
That's true.
So he also finds what he says here. Right. I guess also that she couldn't be here, but anyway. He also finds that according to their life prolongation plan, what they thought they were accomplishing, a person would only age 1 month for every 100 years of real time. And this is basically how they find out that the children are a part of a dying race. All of the adults died, and the children just remain children for hundreds of years, only to very slowly reach adulthood. And when puberty hits, they perish.
But it does take longer for their onset of the disease because they've already sort of had the life prolongation. So with Miri, it's going to take like 5 or 6 weeks.
Yes.
But for our valiant crew, they've got 107 hours.
Yeah, and even though they're hundreds of years old, they've retained and explored only the knowledge and inclinations of children and have never grown up from there. Even when...
It took me half the episode to figure out that Foolies was the inhabitants' word for games. I thought that was... I was like trying to pick up on the vernacular, and I think there was one that I couldn't even... I was like, I don't even know what that means. But Foolies took me about half an hour to figure out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also, this is a great set piece with the computer because, again, it is, as I've said before, many things, it is of its time. So watching a man use a computer that is so small, and then, okay, I got to enter this, enter, bloop, bloop, bloop. Okay, enter this, enter that. Okay, bloop, bloop, bloop. And it's like, wow, that's futuristic. It's so small and responds so quickly.
Yes, you're right.
It's too bad they didn't have the insight to think, well, what would it look like if we put a keyboard on it?
Yeah,
it does have a keyboard. Well, it's got buttons.
I know, because typewriters were very abundant. It's too bad someone didn't make the connection. Well, let's try it with what it would look like if we had a keyboard. That would have been nice. It would have been really out of there.
They do show a typewriter. It would have been cool.
I agree.
There is a little bit of a juxtaposition in terms of the keyboard or the typewriter and the computer that they have as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's some great futurism for a series that couldn't have known.
Look at the security. Look at the security guys pretending to know how to read.
Yeah, they're going over the research.
Exactly. They're scientists.
Mm-hmm. Well, they all went through Starfleet Academy, so they all know.
I'm being derogatory. I apologize.
She's cleaning up the desk.
I agree with you, Sporf. Twinkies are a gift from a higher power.
Am I wrong? But isn't this also Rand's largest role, right? She gets more screen time in this episode than the other ones, it seems.
Charlie X and Enemy Within.
Yeah, but
more in this.
Oh, right. Charlie X was probably her biggest. Because, like you said, this should have been her biggest. Weren't you telling me that she had more lines?
Well, there was more interaction with her and Kirk, but they trimmed that down.
Like they cut it almost all out, except for one scene.
Yeah, where she said, "I wanted to look at my legs."
Mm-hmm. And so the children have been using an old toy store as a hideout, with Jan as their leader. That 27-year-old you were mentioning earlier. What's his name?
The
I
actor's name?
remember. Yeah,
The actor's
if you
name?
know it. If you don't know it, it's fine. Anyway.
Well, he played C.W. Moss in Bonnie and Clyde. It's Michael J. Pollard.
Oh, Michael J. Okay.
Pollard, right?
Pollard.
And the little
Thanks.
boy with the big teeth,
Mhm.
John Megna from To Kill a Mockingbird. He played Gil Harris.
Oh, that's why he's so
Oh.
familiar. Okay, I've seen that movie.
Right, he was their friend, right, Gil.
Wow. So that explains. Because and those would have been like when did Bonnie and Clyde come out?
Right around the same time. I think it was
69, I think.
So yeah, and the age of this guy, it does take me a bit out of the story because he's very
Right.
obviously past puberty. And
He was
very
27, but he had a childish looking face, right?
Yeah, right. He's very much a young adult, but I guess they just wanted to have at least one good adult actor.
What's funny is he actually retained that look. Later on, he made appearances in several TV shows and movies, and he always his face looked the same. It's just that his hair got grayer and whiter.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
he's a very prolific actor. You know him. And I checked. Bonnie and Clyde was 1967.
Yep.
He was also, and this takes me a little bit later. He was in the Steve Martin movie Roxanne in like 1987. He was in 1990's Dick Tracy. You will find him in things, and you'll be like, "Hey, it's that guy." Bonk, bonk on the head.
Right. That face is very familiar. Yes, it's very unique, I guess.
Yes, agreed. Jean even guesses at the existence of the Enterprise somehow, saying that there are probably more of them in the sky talking to each other. And of course, he claims that because grown-ups are talking to each other, they're obviously talking about hurting us. So, but John and the little boy talk about the violence of the Grups as if it was only a thing from the past. And John wants to disconnect the Grups from each other by stealing the little boxes. And the little boy thinks that it's enough to hide away from the Grups because he has had that much faith in their hiding abilities, which have somehow kept them alive for 300 years. Which is what they do. They hide once they see Kirk and Miri outside. And
a keyboard. How quaint.
Oh, from Star Trek 4.
Yeah.
And he also, Sora Pubis also says, the red shirts are reading the script to find out when they're going to die.
Right. Maybe they erased it, and that's why nobody died in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
They were messing with the script.
Right. They tore out the page where the red shirt dies.
Hey, Warren, we're going to die on page 7.
Quick,
all right.
Erase it right over it.
Just tear it out. Just tear it out.
That's great. I buy it. So Matt G wants us to remember to subscribe to Overlord DVD, to subscribe to Doomcock, who of course has his Friday Night Frolics tonight, which is a great party he has every Friday on his channel. And tonight is going to be a great celebration because he just reached 295,000 subscribers. So
Wow.
it'll be fun.
Apparently the children, they had, we've all heard the story where they, directors, their biggest fear is working with children and animals. And the children here were having a blast while filming and found it very difficult to act serious. So they had to do several reshoots for that reason. Specifically, William Shatner's daughter, apparently, she kept smiling and laughing because her dad was in the scene and he was acting so serious and she couldn't figure out why.
Oh,
that's
funny.
I'd like to share something from the daughter, if I can.
Oh, yes, please.
In Captain's Log, William Shatner's personal account of the making of Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, and later in her personal blog, William Shatner's middle daughter, Elizabeth Shatner, who was 5 years old, described her time on the set, describing her fear and confusion during the filming of this episode. She also described her encounters with the other children, her father, and the production staff. Once we entered the set and were directed to the costume room, someone handed me a box with a costume in it and told me to put it on. Since Halloween was one of my favorite holidays, I opened the box eagerly. I was getting a chance to dress up, and it wasn't even Halloween. However, my excitement was somewhat lessened when I saw the costume. It was a beige, apron-like dress with the words, I Spy printed on the left pocket. Even at the age of 5, I considered myself too mature to wear such a silly
Oh my
costume.
God. I don't know why I thought it was Friday. It's Tuesday.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh my God. Okay, yeah, it's Tuesday. It's like, thank you, Mr. CCTV. I don't know why I extended the week.
I would like pop culture curator to finish before we examine your time displacement.
No, I don't want to examine my time displacement anymore.
All
I
right,
just
then we'll
wanted
let
to
it
correct
slide.
Well, let it slide. I was just excited that Doomcock reached 295 that I wanted to party. So
Well,
that's why I made it Friday.
Thank God it's Friday. Moving on.
I'm sorry to interrupt Miss Shatner.
No,
Well, and
that's okay.
also,
You
if
can-
you're listening on the rerun and it's Friday, congratulations. Comment
Right.
below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. I make mistakes, and there's one of them.
That's ridiculous.
Don't we all?
Yes.
You can start from the top of that
From the top, okay.
of the
dress,
quote.
right, of the quote. It was a beige apron-like dress with the words "I Spy" printed on the left pocket. Even at the age of 5, I considered myself too mature to wear such a silly costume. So I spent the next hour with my left hand over the print. My mother made matters worse when she asked the costumer if they had any green wigs left. She had seen a little girl walk by with a wig of long green ratty hair, and she wanted one for me. I breathed a sigh of relief when she was informed none were left. After they left the costume, Leslie, who was also appearing in the episode and got a much better costume than I did, accompanied me to the makeup room to visit Dad. When we walked into the room, he was sitting in the makeup chair, his back to us. We ran forward excitedly, relieved to see his familiar outline. When he turned towards us, I caught a glimpse of his arm and saw the skin on the inside of his elbow was covered with a long, bluish-red scab. I blanched, and my dad burst out laughing and told us to touch the sore. It was made of rubber. At that moment, I realized everything was pretend. Once I understood that, I relaxed. Only with blood on his hands. Afterwards, she and her sister were taken to the set, and a makeup man came around and put dirt smudges on our faces, something which Leslie didn't appreciate very much. When she speaks of Leslie, she means her sister.
Yes.
Finally, my father started talking. I understood that his words belonged to the pretend realm, but what he was saying still didn't make much sense. Look at your hands, he commanded. They have blood on them. When no one moved, he stopped talking. Well, look at them, he said, and all the kids looked down at their hands. I followed suit, but didn't see anything unusual. I wonder why he told me there was blood on my hands when there wasn't any. The next scene didn't clear up my confusion. Keith Taylor was told to pick me up and carry me towards my father, whereupon I was supposed to take a swipe at my father's face. I knew this was pretend. In fact, I couldn't keep a smile off my face every time I got close to hitting him. My father kept saying, "No, you can't smile," every time I grinned. We had to do it 4 or 5 times before I finally could keep a straight face. I
Can
wasn't
you
entirely
imagine?
well. I know your own daughter. I wasn't
She was having
entirely
so much fun.
Well, no,
right.
but what's the best way? Like what I've seen parents, and I know from my own, the best way to get me to start smiling is for my dad to say, "Stop smiling.
Right. Stop smiling. Stop laughing, and then you
It's
start
not
laughing
funny.
louder.
This isn't funny. Stop it. Stop it." It's like that makes me just go smilier.
For the last scene, Elizabeth was where Kirk and the Onlys run to the lab. My father entered carrying me and sat me down next to the actress playing Janice Rand, who was kneeling on the floor. The scene took a long time to film. Eventually, I began looking around the room and discovered I had a bird's eye view of the top of the actress's head. I was utterly fascinated by her hair, which was woven into a checkered pattern on top. I stared at that hair for a long time, wondering if it was possible to actually play checkers on it.
Oh,
And that's
really
the end
cute.
of that quote.
Yeah, actually, that quote's in the book too. That's cool.
Oh, it is? Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. Don't be sorry. It's great when these things overlap, but I can just edit that out.
I believe they call it corroboration.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, Edge of Time wants to remind people to go vote early and vote often, right? Because today is election day, Tuesday.
Is it?
I'm not going to hear the end of this. I bet.
Right,
No.
let the rigging begin. It already has.
Dropper clapper.
Damn it. Okay, so sort of.
Right, was that a checkered beehive?
Why is that lady wearing a beehive on her head?
How do you get the checker pieces to stick?
And Snortopoopus covers for me. He says it's that life prolongation thingy that has caused a distortion in the timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly stuff.
There it is.
Yeah. Wait, what is today?
It's Friday.
It's Tuesday.
Gonna get down on Friday.
Right, because if it is, I'm late to work. So I'm like, where?
I know. You mean what?
No, you know what? Stop it, Scotty.
Okay.
Tuesday.
All right.
Okay.
It's Tuesday. That's when the tractor beam shows up. Meanwhile,
a teenager who has an advanced form of the illness attacks Kurt. He stuns her.
The
But
phaser blast is unique to this episode. It's never used. The sound effect is never used in another episode.
Well, and it was very true in terms of the remastered effects. It was very true to the original in terms of it being a double pulse.
So then
here's the scene where the
girl...
kids were told. Right, here's the scene where the kids were told not to look like you're having fun, kids.
Yeah. Yeah, look at those. Well, but also they're sadistic little brats. Like, I believe they're psychosis.
That's just it. They're supposed to look like little evil little monsters, but instead they're laughing and having fun. You know.
Yeah, but children who want to do evil and they smile and laugh, that's what's terrifying.
Well, maybe they were excited because they heard there's a bonk bonk scene coming up, huh?
Can't wait. I wouldn't give that kid a hammer.
And Edge of Time says Twinkie the Kid approves of this time-space discombobulation. Thank you. Oh my god! You know, I only heard that song by Rebecca Black once, and somehow it's never left my brain.
Well, don't say the name of the artist, or else we might get copyright struck.
Really?
No, probably. I don't know. I'll stop singing it. I'll stop singing it.
Thank you. So apparently this stun kills
Aunt
Louise.
B. Oh, it's Louise.
Louise.
Yes.
And yeah, Louise is her name.
Which is impossible because the phaser was set to stun.
And unless the disease was so advanced.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, the metabolism thing. Like, it's a deadly plague. Everyone's going to die.
Well, right. Like the 3 punches did to the first one at the beginning.
Well, and I don't know if we... Yeah. And I don't know if we got to the part where they're like, why doesn't Spock have any of these lesions? And it's he's like, well, it looks like I'm a carrier, so I can't go back to the ship or everybody else will die. And there is something that sort of unifies the team, because usually in drama such as this, the rest of the crew would be like, well, you're not even sick. And there would be a division between them, but they don't. They're still a unified landing party. And Spock says, well, I can't go back to the ship. And I do want to go back to the ship. Don't worry. I'm on your side.
Yeah,
and
but
that is something
he's
that is
a carrier.
Mm-hmm. But he is a carrier, exactly. So he is still in the same boat, but it doesn't manifest itself in the same way.
Yeah. And he continues to communicate with the ship to feed the ship's computer with the data to figure out a solution.
So are we assuming that the ship doesn't have a decontamination chamber?
Not until they know what it is. No, we've seen many a Star Trek episode where, like, they've beamed up dogs that split in two.
Right. And they did in an earlier episode show decontamination. Remember the episode The Naked Time?
Yeah, but it didn't work.
No, it did not work for that particular out. Yes, you're correct about that.
So I'm glad that they're learning.
Well, decontamination is fine if you're not sure if there's an something to be worried about. But if it's a definite illness that's already spreading down on the planet, then why would you want to bring it on the ship or risk bringing it up there, even if you can?
Well, right. Well, then you're assuming.
Quarantine.
Right. Then what it is you're assuming that the decontamination isn't always effective, so there's no sense in risking it.
Right, because this is an unknown thing, and
right.
How can quarantine procedures would behoove you to stay where you are?
Why don't they just rub each other in gel? You guys never seen Enterprise? Okay, never mind.
Yeah, that's funny because.
Go ahead, Jill.
That's funny because it happens before, but really it's created after.
Mhm.
right? And that was the scene that made me stop watching Enterprise. That was the last scene that I
Wow,
laid eyes on.
that was the very first episode, so
Yep,
you didn't
that
make
was
it
the
very
last scene I
far.
laid eyes on. I didn't like it, so I didn't go back.
You really got to see it when Captain Archer rubs the gel on Porthos.
No thanks.
All right.
Okay, so that doesn't happen. But what does happen is that Kirk asks Miri to sharpen more pencils,
Yes.
which parallels earlier when he asked her to keep to clean the desk, which is a way to keep her busy.
And again, I think he's just maintaining duty function, and it's kind of admirable.
Mhm. And Spock notes that the researcher on this planet wasn't even sure of his own mental state by the time he wrote the report. But Spock can still figure out how much longer they have until Kirk and McCoy die. And they estimate that Miri has 5 or 6 weeks. But the older the victim, the more rapid the decline. And even though it hasn't affected Spock, he's a carrier, so he won't go back to the ship. And McCoy elaborates on the disease when he says, "No, but we know what it is and how fast it does. It's progressing. We'll begin to feel it inside soon. Intense fever, great pain in the extremities, fuzziness of vision. Of course, those are the early symptoms. There'll be more." And Spock finally figures out that they have 7 days left until McCoy and Kirk succumb to illness.
And just for the record, I did look this up. 170 hours is 7.833 repeating days. So I would say they have closer to 8 days. I think Spock would have been specific. I think he would have said, we have 7.8 days.
Yeah, you're right. He would have been more down to the minute and the hour until somebody stopped him and said, "That's enough."
Exactly. Well, no, he's not Data. I think he would have been concise.
No? Oh, well. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Spock, is a phrase that was never said in derision.
Well, wouldn't it affect them differently depending on their ages? For example, McCoy's older than them, so you think it would work more rapidly on him, possibly, than it would the youngest of them?
That is possible.
Yeah,
but if that were the case, I think that Dr. McCoy would have sent up his age.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, you didn't like that?
It's just an estimate.
All right. There. I'll rub to Paul. Mr. CCDV, you're sounding like Kirk in this episode.
And if I remember correctly, I think DeForest Kelley was 46 when they filmed this episode. Shatner and Nimoy, I believe, were 35.
Yes.
Oh, so about a 10-year difference.
Yeah.
Still, Dr. McCoy is the hero of this episode, just so everyone knows.
Snortopoopus gives, I agree. And he gives another statement I agree with here. "I like these kids better than the ones that show up and the children shall lead."
Yeah, I agree.
They have better chance in this one.
And then he also says the warning label on the phasers specifically state that the stun setting can be fatal to pubescent children.
Oh, and Cardinalson is in the chat. Hello.
Hello, Cardinalson. How are you doing?
Mr. Angel.
Mr. Angel. So I'll be. Oh. And then Mr. CCDV says, "Shut up, Wesley."
I think that's from The Princess Bride. I don't know.
I have no idea either. Normally it's "Shut up, Wesley," but there's a T in there. Then CCDV says, "Blue boxers."
Am I an Enterprise character? No, that makes total sense. You're fine. See, and the thing is, realizing you're wearing a red shirt, it's fine if your name is Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Or Uhura, for that matter.
And so then we get another captain's log. This is the second day of the 7 left to us.
Yes.
We found nothing. Enterprise is standing by with labs and computers ready to assist us. And McCoy tries to figure out how this life prolongation project was supposed to work. He says that they're trying to make a new series of diseases. Somehow this chain reaction of these viruses was supposed to extend cell life. So with just 5 days left, McCoy has to isolate this virus.
And develop a vaccine.
Yes.
Seems like something you would do first.
Right. You want the vaccine before you get the illness.
Yeah.
Which is why I keep calling it cure in my notes here. I keep calling it a cure because that's what it is. It's a cure. It's not a vaccine.
Yeah. Medical terms like that were kind of thrown around willy-nilly as well. Hey, they still are. Moving on.
Right. And this is also the first episode where we see, or you can see from the last shots, that these shirts had zippers from the inside.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right there.
This
McCoy's, and then later on Kirk's.
Yeah, I was really surprised by that in terms of, I don't, like, is it supposed to show that there's a casual, you remember in the movies when Kirk would, like, sort of unflap the uniform, and he's like,
Yes,
I'm not putting up with the formality of this.
The front of it.
That's what this looks like. But it looks sloppier.
Well, I think this is a slight indication that things are starting to unravel, and they're looking tired and exhausted.
Yes. Well, and later on, we just get full-on sleeve rips. Not like wrestling sleeve rips, but sleeve rips. Hey, Apex.
Hi, Apex. And Snortopoopa says, the use of phasers in disciplining children is discouraged.
Well, I've never seen Ben Sisko use a phaser on Jake, so I'll agree.
Me too.
Although I wouldn't put it past Rom using a stun phaser on Nog.
That also goes for agonizers.
Well, agonizers are a whole different universe.
Yes, but don't use them on little kitties, kids.
Please don't. Please don't.
Mm-hmm.
What does this mean? Okay,
I don't know.
Mr. Angel says, well, my Bane ain't Scott, and I am not a female comm officer. I am beaming that red shirt into space, to be sure. Accidentally beams himself into a vacuum. Whoops, red shirt strikes again. Exactly. You have to take off the red shirt before you beam it into space.
There you go. Right. Being female in Star Trek is very helpful because red skirts don't die so often.
That's true. I didn't even bring up Janice. I am remiss.
They just get fired. So.
And unfortunately, you know what? And to go back to Grace Lee Whitney for just 1 second, thank heavens she shows back up in Star Trek: The Motion Picture, Star Trek 3: The Search for Spock, shows up in Star Trek 6: The Undiscovered Country, and in the Voyager episode Flashback. If I am missing any of those, I apologize. But she did. Yeah, she had her troubles. And despite that, either she found it in her heart to forgive or to move forward professionally. I don't know what it was. I don't wish ill upon anyone, but she was back in Star Trek later on. So there must have been some semblance of peace made.
Wasn't she also on the bridge with Sulu when he was in charge of the Excelsior?
Yeah, Star Trek 6 and Flashback.
Well, you read her autobiography, Pop Culture. Do you know why she came back for the movies?
Well, yeah, because by then it was, well, you can see it's all forgiven and forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
So by then,
she had a forgiving nature.
Right, she had a forgiving nature towards the show, and they felt bad about what had happened to her. And she had overcome at that point her addictions.
Oh, that's good. That's good to hear. I didn't know that.
Yep.
She didn't have a tragic end. Her end was fairly peaceful. She did do the convention circuit, and she connected with what made her famous, and I admire that about her.
I was wondering if that was an element, if being connected with the fans helped, and I guess it did.
It seems to be a running. Say what you will about the Berman era and the Next Generation shows, and I think that Next Generation is probably the cast that put forth the most welcoming to the community, like the Star Trek fans. But the original series, after going from cancellation to Star Trek conventions that they thought would have 7 people and ended up being thousands, to the movies and the responses afterwards, and the graciousness of the cast in being thankful at varying peaks and valleys. I'm looking at you, Bill. But like, it was really the entire production of Star Trek is what kept it alive until there was a Next Generation. And it was Trekkers, Trekkies, whatever you want to call them, that made it
in the intro.
a family.
Yes, absolutely. The Star Trek family is a real thing that you get to witness if you ever go to a Star Trek convention.
Well, another thing that was fascinating, it wasn't just the main cast, but people who did cameos and guest starring roles ended up at the conventions as well. And a lot of them, they weren't expecting that to happen.
Right. But am I going to go to Toronto Trek to see Lazarus from the Alternative Factor? The answer is yes.
Was that even a question?
No, it wasn't. It was a statement. It was kind of rhetorical.
Snortopoopus says, first season costumes were made of that damn velour that shrank every time it's cleaned. The hidden zippers became more visible as the shirt shrank. And Mr. CCDB says the command shirts were supposed to be green too. And here we see the children sneak into the lab to steal all the communicators, which is the first thing that Spock notices when they get back. So he's just grabbing the communicators.
And that always handy, huge vent that's unlocked. It's an old trope used so many times.
It's still kind of open in the background there.
It's still, and they still use it even in modern day. It's like, oh, there was a vent that's big enough to fit somebody that's not locked.
Mm-hmm. Very useful. And then we get another captain's log, stardate 2717.3. 3 days, 7 hours left to us. Investigation proves that the supply of food in the area is running dangerously low. Unless something is done, the children will starve in a few months. The disease is working on each of us, according to Dr. McCoy's prediction. Our tempers are growing short, and we're no further along than we were 2 days ago. I'm sorry, I'm still laughing at myself from my earlier transgression. I can't.
It's okay, no problem.
No, I know. And you know, the funny thing is maybe I made that mistake, because what I really want to do is promote Pop Culture Breakdown, which is moved to Wednesdays. So make sure to catch Overlord DVD on tomorrow on Wednesday. Around 7.
Party and yeah.
But can we change it to Wednesday? But tomorrow. But it's not Wednesday. But that's another mistake.
Get down on Wednesday.
Yeah, and that's tomorrow. So
you can't copyright claim that because it's not the right day.
Right, and now it's a parody.
It's a parody.
It's under fair use.
Can we talk about Star Trek?
That makes sense. That's why I have less people on my Gilligan's Island stream now. So now I know.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, he
don't
was
apologize.
He was tired of tired of streaming on Sunday. So as the log says, they're being they're being short with each other. They're just getting angry at each other.
Yes, fuses are short. Except for Spock. He's just letting them do whatever they do, and he's not getting in the way. He is analytical, and I think the direction of that, they show Spock responding sort of just like, all right, humans are going to human.
Mm-hmm.
Not sometimes, Miri. Every time. Times.
And they're acting rashly and angrily to each other in a way that Starfleet officers usually don't do. Right. For instance, this line where Kirk says, "Haven't you found anything yet?" And McCoy is super annoyed and says, "Would you like to take a crack at it?" And as a crescendo to this tirade of tantrums, Kirk very clumsily pushes past Rand, making her drop and break a flask. And this is the last straw for her. And she says, "No, no, no." And then she runs out of the room with Kirk following, realizing his error here. And we get the one and only real interaction between her and Captain Kirk in this episode, where she says, I'm upset. So upset. Back on the ship, I used to try to get you to look at my legs. And then, of course, she asks him to look at her legs. But now it's covered in all of these weird blotches. The foam that we were talking about earlier.
Mhm.
Yeah, and what's interesting is, I guess the scab or whatever it is goes through stockings, or it's on the stocking,
Or
That's-
broke the stocking.
or broke the
Ooh.
stocking, because she's obviously wearing stockings, right?
Yes.
Well, and I thought that this shot was rather interesting simply because it's again based on the costuming, which we've all agreed on is titillating and yet sort of empowering for the time. It's still something that television didn't necessarily want to see, was the hem of a skirt so high so high above the knee. And so there is a thing where it's like, it's gross, but she covers it up. And it's like, well, you said look at your legs. What's on your leg? I can't see it. Your hand is in the way. And I was like,
Mhm.
is this a censorship, like in terms of more whatever, in term decency sort of cut? It's like, you can't show that hem.
I think it was her shame.
You think it was character driven and not censorship driven?
Oh,
Okay.
like look at my legs, but don't really look.
Right.
Look at my
Okay.
right. Well, I think she, in a way, she was saying, I always wanted you to look at my legs, but now I don't. Now she's
Okay,
ashamed.
that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
tomorrow is
I-
Wednesday, for the record.
I need to reschedule my Gilligan's Island streams.
Well, we're still watching Desperado or Inglourious Bastards. I don't know.
You should finish Inglorious Bastards. That's my
That's
vote.
what I've
If
heard.
I get to have a vote.
That's what I've heard. I'll have to talk to Kat.
Yeah. Well, of course, Kat gets the deciding vote.
She is the captain.
She is. And Snorterpoopus Cuber says the sea view on Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea had a huge air vent that ran the length of the ship and didn't seem to have any watertight integrity.
Maybe it was their ballast.
Ooh.
I don't know.
Mr. Angel says the latest red shirt conspiracy theory is they actually a race of morphing aliens taking out Starfleet's almost capable staff to weaken them from the inside out. Where is my tinfoil hat? It is currently being held by Commander Remick.
Mhm.
Commander Remick was a red shirt, don't forget. Different generation, though, so it doesn't have the same connotation. No one talks about the death of yellow shirts.
That's right. Gold shirts are the red shirts of TNG.
Yes. Well, there's theoretically, but I don't see a lot of red shirts or yellow shirts dying. Well, I guess Tasha Yar. We talked about that.
There's a few.
There were, yeah.
In
No,
engineering specifically.
can we talk about the original series, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt your Thursday. Don't forget, we have Quantum Leap tonight.
Snorterpoopus says there were always comments. So if I randomly giggle during this live stream, it's because I'm laughing at myself for what I did. Snorterpoopus Cuber says there were always comments from the standards and practices people about not using makeup effects that would upset viewers and avoid those open mouth kisses.
Oh, good point.
Yeah. Well, in this scene, Kirk is comforting Rand. And Miri
And
notices.
Miri gets jealous.
Ooh. Mhm. And finally, somehow, McCoy discovers the actual disease that was created 300 years ago. So now he can finally craft something to fight it.
And I like the way that this interaction goes. It's like Kirk, because McCoy says, I found something. Kirk comes up and he's like, what did you find? And McCoy does a Spock thing. And he's like, okay, so we did this, then that. And that found out that this happened. And Kirk is like, shut up. Just tell me what you found. Skip to the end.
Mhm.
And they're like, well, we either found permadeath or a vaccine or a cure or some Tums to figure out how to get rid of this thing.
Mm-hmm. And so with of course, seeing Kirk with Rand gives Miri the idea to kidnap Rand by using her own compassion against her when she talks to the children here in this next scene. She says, she's always asking me about the youngest onlys, little ones. What if they get sick? Who takes care of them? Do they have enough to eat? Where did they sleep? I'll just tell her, one of you fell down and got hurt. So that's how they capture her.
Yes.
And they
off
say,
screen.
And yeah, off screen. And they say bonk, bonk a lot.
Yeah. And Boo Radley over there is just wielding a hammer like nobody's business. It is psychotic. There are moments where I'm like, did anyone tell him to be careful with that?
Mm-hmm. And just wait until he gets a wrench.
Oh, yeah. Well, that part is also terrifying. I don't know what a K-pot is.
Oh, where did they get all those K-pots?
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
What's a K-pot?
Exactly. I don't know.
Could it be the helmets? I don't know. Somebody tell me.
Someone could. I'm sure CCTV has an idea. Anyway. Oh, and he does. Vietnam helmets.
A Vietnam helmet. Yay, I guessed.
Well, where did they get them all? Probably from Vietnam.
So, although making a breakthrough in creating the cure, McCoy is unsure of the dosage, and he could really use those communicators to test out that right dosage and everything. And then Kirk notices that Rand is missing, but Miri pretends that she doesn't know. But, of course, she's jealous of Rand, but she doesn't actually want to hurt Kirk, so she's trapped in between being an antagonist but also wanting to help, and I think that's interesting. And the communicators, of course, are needed to run the data through the ship's computer that McCoy just figured out. And Spock says, without the communicators, it could be a beaker full of death. He doesn't say it like that.
No, he does, though.
Oh, he does?
It could be a beaker of death.
Okay.
Like, there could have been a dun-dun-dun.
Euler Greg says the child actors were subpar in this episode. Yeah, they're kind of funny, though, in their subparness.
I was fine with them.
Yeah. And Snortopoopa says, McCoy says, I found the cure. The bad news is it causes pattern baldness in Canadian actors. Jim, you'll have to wear a toupee the rest of your career.
See, you're fine. You're absolutely fine if we snicker at Shatner's toupee. We say anything out of line about Gene, and you're all like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, who knows about his hair, really? It's like one of those scientific mysteries.
It is a legend. I have never seen William Shatner bald.
Me neither.
And I saw him swim in Star Trek 4. It reminds me of a line from Jackie Brown about when Robert Forrester's character is there and he's like, well, I started losing my hair and I did something about it. And it's like, okay, that's good enough. All of the Shatner toupee jokes, they're so stale and so old. If that is your criticism of William Shatner, here's a comb.
Well, I think it's a cute one. I mean, it's not.
I don't like it at all. I think it's mean.
Okay.
I think it's a vain man who tried to protect his career by doing something about his physical appearance, and I give him no harm, no foul.
Yeah,
and so if you think he wore a toupee, it's not a slight. It's just a thing that happened. I don't think he did because, he's very hairy.
He was never caught out in public without it. Right. I remember when his second wife drowned in their swimming pool. And it was like an emergency. It was like, they had 911 and everybody at their house. Even the reporters were there. And they were interviewing him about it. And he had that toupee on. So never catch him without that toupee.
Well, I still believe in a Shatner head of hair.
Well, here it's a toupee. In T.J. Hooker, it was a rug. And then it went back to a toupee as he got older again.
Well, then I think he got plugs eventually. Sure.
Yes, transplants.
Hey, we have sex bots.
Oh no!
No, yeah, click them.
Somebody
Hey.
kill those bots.
I
don't
got
have
it. I'm on it. Remove.
Hey, sex bots, meet me at my place after the show.
Put user in timeout.
I got it.
There we go.
Oh, you got it too. Okay.
Yeah, we're on it. Anyway, that was a fun game of whack-a-mole. What were we talking about?
I have no idea now.
Something about William Shatner's toupee.
Yeah. Oh, right. What were you saying, pop culture? Before
no,
we
I
were
think
distracted.
I think we
we finished it, right?
Yeah, I think we got there. But Mr. Angel says this episode essentially is Star Trek meets Lord of the Flies. Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. The book also agrees with you.
Sorry, this is only going to be appropriate if I say it now.
Go ahead.
Oh, wait. Mr. Angel says William Shatner's Secret of the Toupee he discovered on the show. Tribbles. There's actually a great YouTube video about William Shatner's toupee coming back and being like a monkey's paw for him. It is a funny internet video. So I know it's a meme.
I need to see all of these parodies that I've never seen.
All right. The girls are here. Are you ready for the sex bots?
No.
All right. Well, good thing we killed them.
Thank you. So Kirk tries to explain to Miri that this disease will affect every child once they grow up and that they will die, all of them. And that's why she has to care that McCoy's that's why she has to care about getting the communicators back and to help McCoy with the cure. She thinks it only happens sometimes, but he assures her that it happens all of the time. And just on cue, the visible signs of the disease begin to occur on her arm. So Kirk can point directly at it, and now she can't ignore the truth.
Looks like puberty to me.
Mm-hmm. And now the kids are hiding out in the school with the little boy pretending to be a teacher, saying, yeah, they're doing the Foley. He's saying, yeah, steady, 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 or bonk, bonk, bad kid. And everybody applauds as
he takes a bow. Yeah, it's adorable.
Yeah, as if this is the most amazing performance ever completed on anything ever.
But I think that's part of the thing that Kirk says to Miri in the episode. And it's like, don't you understand why you don't look at your friends the same way anymore? You're not interacting with them the same way. That was the worst Shatner impression. But yeah, like I think that it is, on the onset of adolescence, you're going to get bored with these stupid hammer games. Like, what are you doing?
At one point, you get you put away childish things.
Well, we are still here talking.
Yeah,
about,
I know that was going to be. I was trying to figure out how to make that into a joke, but yes, except for us.
Except for us. These are not childish things. These are culture explorations.
Right. And Euler Greg says, I agree with pop culture. I don't care if he had plugs or whatever. It's not important to me. Yeah.
Here. Mm-hmm. Hey, Euler.
That's why I can laugh at it. Because
oh, sure. But you bring up how Gene Roddenberry was cheating on all of his wives. He had many. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, it's not a laughing matter now, is it, Jill? No. It's just a very stressful Friday.
It's Saturday. What are you talking about?
Oh, crap. I'm late for church.
Oh, hello in the chat to Tony Stark.
Hey, Tony.
It says afternoon.
Good to see you, Tony. Hello there. And good to see you, Euler Greg.
And of course, we have Janice Rand all tied up. And she's trying to admonish them, trying to tell them, what for, but they're not listening. And
does Janice know that there's a cure yet?
No.
Okay.
No, I think no. No,
I don't think
she does.
I don't think so. I think they talk about. I think they talk about how it's important to get the. Like, where's Janice? We found a cure. We got to get the communicators. That's where the Janice is. The Janice. And
the clapper.
The dropper clapper. And Yeah. So it all goes, and we need to get to the computers on the Enterprise, or else we don't know if it's a beaker of death.
Right, because she disappeared shortly after McCoy found the disease in
Yep.
the hospital or whatever laboratory. So she just knew that there was hope, not that there was a cure.
Right.
And so Miri brings Kirk to where Rand is here at the school, because she's, the kids are still trying to play through Kirk's impassioned plea for the communicators, trying to tell them that all the games will be over forever if they don't help. And Jan starts the chant. He starts the children chanting. And so they begin to approach menacingly. And we finally get Kirk's speech, so I'll be reading his speeches here. He says, "You've seen your friends change one by one as they grow up. Do you ever see one of them not change? One by one, they got the disease. They become like those creatures you're afraid of, like Luis. One by one, they change and got the disease. The disease like I've got, like Miri has. You understand what I'm talking about. You're not babies. We can help you." So, but that doesn't, but his speech falls on deaf ears as the children begin to beat him senseless. Like, look, this kid with the wrench. However, they couldn't have been hitting him too hard, because he marches right out of the crowd, still conscious and only bleeding a little bit with no apparent concussion.
Well, he is Captain Kirk.
Mm-hmm. Right. Captain Kirk is invulnerable to being smashed in the head by a wrench.
Well, he's tough, right? He can take a beating and still keep moving, right?
Miri tries to back him up, and Kirk goes for broke, just showing them how bad the disease is by showing him their arms. But the little boy...
I had to step away. I missed the whole riot.
Oh, yeah, you missed... Oh, yeah, I was wondering where
Anyway,
you were.
no, that was terrifying. When the children attack him and he's overwhelmed, he's still getting beaten, but he can't really fight back because they're kids.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right. So you missed the actual bonk bonk on the head.
Well,
thing.
I haven't said it yet.
I did miss the bonk bonk on the head, yeah. Anyway, move forward. It's my fault. It's my fault.
It's okay. The little boy says, "Bonk, bonk, hit him." And Kirk continued. You only missed the first speech, in which Kirk was completely ignored. So this is the second speech.
Oh, the good one.
There's 3 of them, so this is the second one. And the little ones. What's going to happen to them after you're gone? After you've turned into creatures like Luis? Oh, they'll still be here, but not for long, because all the food's gone. You've eaten it. Maybe 6 months left. That's all. And then nothing left to eat. Mm-hmm. Nobody left to take care of them. Mm-hmm. They'll die too.
At which point, anyone who has ever tried to explain anything to a child will say, "This did not get through to them. He's dead." Mm-hmm. Like, what he explained in the abstract concepts that he is trying to explain to these children, it's like they don't have the mental capacity. That's part of the divide between them. You're trying to do scientific things to make sure that they don't die. They're virtually immortal. They don't even understand that much.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and Cardinal Sin has been saying that too, Scotty. You're so funny. You're on fire today. Someone put him out.
That's a great compliment. Thank you.
You really are. I agree. And he also quotes a Doomcock song that he often sings.
Captain Kirk with his shirt ripped clean off.
Yeah, that's a lyric.
I did not know the song.
Mm-hmm.
Another Kirk shirt ruined. I see you managed to get your shirt off.
Yeah. Darn it, Jim. I'm a doctor, not a tailor. Stop ripping off your shirt in front of the Gorns, says Mr. Angel.
Abusive wrench. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, no, that
Yeah.
is, you know what? I don't know if this is a joke that I missed, but that was, the kid with the wrench. That was the first moderator on YouTube.
Yeah, no, that's what I was thinking too when I saw this
But
wrench.
did you
It's
say
right
it?
there.
Did I make
No,
the joke redundantly?
no, you didn't. I didn't mention it at all. But
All right.
there's the shot there. And Tony Stark says, I met Cardinal Sin through Doomcock along with Jill. And hell, about everyone.
Yep.
Yep, same here. And Cardinal Sin says I'm the Walmart greeter in the Doomcock chat. And Snora Poopus says, You're the one who tells people where to find their shit and get out. Okay. Oh, right. Okay. Well, you're lucky if someone at Walmart's telling you where to find something.
Old timey Star Trek. That's where we are.
That's the name of the song. I don't sing, otherwise I'd sing it.
You know what day of the week Jill does sing on?
And Miri tries to back up Kirk again, saying, Look at my arm, John. It's happening to me. He's telling the truth. And here, in particular, we see a shot of Phil Morris with the army helmet. So I'm going to read that bit that they have about him in the book.
Okay.
So actor Phil Morris was 7 years old when he appeared in Miri as one of the Oldleys, an anonymous boy wearing an army helmet. Morris has since appeared in numerous Star Trek productions, including Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Oh, right. I forgot.
And Star Trek Voyager.
Mm-hmm.
His long resume also includes a prominent recurring role on Seinfeld as the lawyer, Jackie Childs. And as an ongoing cast member in revivals of Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible, right. In the Mission Impossible, the 90s version, he played his dad was in the 60s version of Mission Impossible. The 90s brought Mission Impossible back, and he played the son of that same character in Mission Impossible.
Typecasting.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
That's a prolific career. Like, we've already given big ups to Clint Howard, who was Baylock from the Corbomite Maneuver. It's like, and also I do enjoy an actor who gets their start on Star Trek and still plays with Star Trek, so that he came back for Enterprise and Deep Space Nine. That's incredible.
Here, this is better. There we go. There's Phil Morris.
There he is.
Yep.
Named after a cigarette.
And Phil's father, Greg Morris, co-starred as Barney Collier in Mission Impossible, another Desilu production.
Yep.
The producers tapped the pool of talent then working on the Paramount lot and got them to bring their kids. Phil Morris explained, They got me, my older sister Iona, 2 of William Shatner's daughters, director Vincent Micavides' kids, and more. It was cool, man, working with Michael J. Pollard. It was a lot of fun until my foot got run over by a camera dolly, he laughs. Which made it both the highlight and the lowlight of my career. And Elizabeth Shatner and her older sister Leslie were in the group. Miss Shatner notes that she was too young to understand why they were doing the things asked of them, but that she eventually realized everything was pretend, which was more elaborately explained earlier with what Pop Culture Curator shared with us. And then it just repeats the quote that he said earlier about Grace Lee Whitney's checkered hair.
I never noticed it.
And Cardinal Sin says Clint Howard was also in Star Trek New Voyages episode.
Also in an episode of Discovery.
And also in an episode of Deep Space Nine. Past
tense. Whoosh. I'm invisible.
He was also in every single production Ron Howard ever made.
I really liked him in Apollo 11 or Apollo 13. That's the one. The sequel, the second sequel.
I'm sure he had to pop up in Solo, right? Since Ron Howard directed it.
That's a good question.
Right.
See, sometimes it's weird. Like I don't know. I don't remember much from Solo, but sometimes it's weird because even if you do like a voiceover, like if you do an ADR, it's like, yep, Clint Howard was in it. If you check the credits, he's gonna be in it.
Well, he usually gets an on-camera role with Ron Howard's movies. That's why
Was he in?
I'm will-
Was he in
I'm
Splash?
yes, and I'm willing to bet he was
Really?
in Solo, even though I have not seen Solo. I'm willing to bet he was in it because Ron Howard, he pretty much puts him in everything.
Well,
I mean, honestly, he wouldn't have a job without Ron Howard almost. So I think that's the way of keeping him in the limelight.
I don't know. I think Baylock predates any Ron Howard performance.
Well, Ron Howard and Clint Howard were both acting around the same time. Clint Howard was doing Gentle Ben, and Ron Howard was doing the Andy Griffith Show.
Okay. Oh, Gentle Ben. Wow.
Right. Their father, his name was Rance Howard. He was an actor that
Oh,
went
I'm
way
familiar
back.
with him. Yeah. He was in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Deleted scene.
And he was on the set for everything those boys ever filmed. He was on the set with them, so that's good that he was there.
Well, Mr. Angel does have to take his leave or their leave. It's Mr., so it's his.
Take care, Mr. Angel. Peace.
He says, "Thanks for the fun. See you all later. See you later, Mr. Angel. Have a great day."
Live long and prosper, cool guy.
Come visit us next time.
Yeah.
That's how I imagine those the emojis. That's what they mean.
That's exactly what they mean.
And what do we see in this picture? A diverse cast. And this is the 1960s. Don't you love it?
Also, a lot of K buckets.
K-pot.
Oh, my mistake. Sorry.
That's okay. I think he
I've
means
been to Nom, but I never served.
I think he means K-pot because that was a slang because they had to actually eat out of those helmets. They did everything with those helmets.
That makes sense.
They shaved, they ate out of them, everything, yes.
Well, there's a prom picture if I've ever seen one.
And the child to the right there in that shot. Go back one, Jill. That one. The child to the right with the hair over their face. The chubby boy, also in Lost in Space. So he was definitely the son of somebody prolific in Hollywood at the time.
Well, they just needed kids. They were like, "You got kids? We'll give you $50."
Well, it's funny here in where he's more visible to the camera. He's not wearing his glasses.
But he does get a lot of.
They show him with his glasses later on when he's in the background.
But he does get a lot of. He gets a lot of close-ups as reactions to John.
Yes, he does. But without the
He
glasses,
must have been
it's
someone
not
important.
right, but it's not until later on when he's in the background you'll see him with his glasses. When you're thinking, well, why would he have glasses, right?
And that man grew up to be Donald Trump. He's kind of got the comb over. Too much? All right, we'll reel it in. No politics.
So as the final speech Kirks has is he says, "All right, you want to fully? All right, I dare you. I double dare you. Look at the blood on my face. Now look at your hands. Blood on your hands. Now who's doing the hurting? Not the Grups. It's you hurting, yelling, maybe killing. Just like the Grups you remember and the creatures you're afraid of. You're acting like them, and you're going to be just like them, unless you let me help you. I'm a Grup, and I want to help you. I'm begging you, let me help you, or there won't be anything left at all. Please."
Yeah, and that is an appeal to children.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's where he got on their level.
Mm-hmm. Even John there, even though he's kind of creepy looking.
Yeah, he is.
Meanwhile, back at the lab,
McCoy is grown impatient, waiting for the communicators, but Spock says they're necessary or else this vaccine could kill. Though very logically, McCoy retorts that the disease certainly will kill. And this gives McCoy the impetus to inject himself with the hypo spray he prepared.
And here we have a little bit of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde scene again. Similar to what we'll see again in City on the Edge of Forever.
Yeah, so he injects himself and passes out after being in agony.
And yelling for Spock. He does yell for Spock.
Mm-hmm. And Spock hears with his Vulcan hearing.
And then, Daryl Hey, where you been, buddy? We were fighting off raiders and looting. We decided to build a settlement.
Thank you for bringing back the Fallout.
Anyway, Willy Wonka returns from the chocolate factory.
I was going to say Kirk finally gets the communicators and returns with the children.
For some reason. Hey, everybody, come with me. I've got a golden ticket.
I feel like they were just following him, but I guess he was carrying that little girl.
Well, he said he was going to help, so it makes sense to,
Yeah.
Anyway.
So then we see the effect of the cure. The blemishes just disappear one by one here, or two, and then one, and then that one.
Which is basically how it goes in the original episode as well. It's just a matter of fading, and it doesn't make any sense medically.
No.
Like, if anything, those sores would slough off and leave you with a slight discoloration on the cheek if it was such a good medicine. But
or kind of crumple up and decay off and
like,
still leave kind of a mark.
You know, like a sunburn or something. Anyway, that's gross. I'm glad it's gone.
Well, what's interesting is, okay, when they shot that, as far as makeup is concerned, he had to hold his head absolutely still for all those shots while they were removing each appliance. And the actor, I don't know if that's actually Leonard Nimoy's hands, but whoever the actor was, put the hands on the head, had to hold the hands there in place at the same time. And I think the hands were there to help DeForest Kelley keep his head perfectly still. Otherwise, you would have seen the head moving between the shots.
That makes sense.
All right. This is something they had to deal with on the original Wolfman movie with Lon Chaney. He would often recline back in a chair and put his body in a position where he couldn't move while they applied the hair appliances. Frame by frame.
Interesting. And
Cardinal
Sin says it's the same effect as Wolfman in reverse.
Yes.
Cool.
But I do want to go back to Snortopupus here. He said, I have a feeling those were toy army helmets. Even the helmet liners would have been too big for kids.
Well, and some, and Edge of Time said, from the toy store, toy helmets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
from the toy store.
It's logical. Yeah. And we get a preview of Devil in the Dark. Do no harm, no kill I.
I said good day. There's no need to yell, Dr. McCoy. I can hear your death scream quite well.
Yeah, that's true. He didn't need to hear him say Spock. He could hear the scream first.
Yeah.
And so the episode ends with
very abruptly.
Yeah, very abruptly.
McCoy's okay, everybody. He made an ultimate sacrifice to make sure that we would all live, and it worked. Anyway, what do we do with these kids? Leave them there.
Well, leave them there with some a medical team and space, and then we sent a communication to Space Command, and they're going to send teachers and advisors to nurture the children as they're cured and reach adulthood.
There is no indication that these children can read.
Nope.
Right, so I guess this is before we had Starfleet Command. Because he did say Space Command.
Yeah, right. He does say Space Command instead of Starfleet or, Starbase.
What's awkward too is he tells Yeoman Rand that he doesn't date older women, and she was older than him when this was shot.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that is awkward. I didn't even think about that fact.
Right here, Captain. Scotty here, Captain. Enterprise to Mr. Spock. Reg, this is the captain. Transporter room.
Welcome.
Yeah. Hello, Cardinalson. Welcome to the stream.
Hello.
Clap for the Wolfman.
Mm-hmm.
How are you, and how did you feel about the episode Miri?
I am wonderful, and I thought when I was a little kid that it was a really dumb episode.
Me too.
But it's good to see all of you.
It's good to see you too.
Sorry,
it's a
I'm
very
late to the
strange.
party.
It's a very strangely written episode, but
It is.
when you can pay close attention to it, the themes make a little bit more sense. It's Lord of the Flies. It's
Oh, good reference. Yes, Lord of the Flies, indeed.
and well, I guess I'll go into my final thoughts since that's where we are. I realize that because of budgetary constraints, we see a lot of Earth-like planets on Star Trek with Earth-like people, but straight up duplication of Earth's topography that has no bearing to the rest of the story is kind of strange.
Yep.
And of course, Kirk is overly friendly with Miri. That
Yep.
causes Miri's attraction for him, which is a normal teenage reaction from her. So even though it's strange, it does provide a realistic motivation for her to kidnap Rand. And
It's just so weird that develops some sort of love triangle between Kirk, Miri, and Rand.
agreed. It's so weird and strange.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I don't.
It's a little stalkery, really.
Well, it's not stalkery. It's kind
it's
of
more
like,
creepy.
It's kind of creepy uncle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's the same motivation that causes her to also help in the end, providing Miri with the dual role as both the antagonist and the assistants. And is it a little weird? Yeah, it's always going to be weird. But teenagers are people too, and it's always that difficulty to not infantilize them, even though they look like babies to us, and their minds are in that volatile in between stage of childhood and adulthood, and finding that middle ground of respect without being condescending is kind of difficult, and that's why it's difficult to be a parent. And that's what Kirk was supposed to be acting like. He was supposed to be acting like a father figure, but it just came off wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then the episode had to deal with that maturity, but then also the utter immaturity of the other children who use their own violence to combat the violence that they've had to fight off in the past as a survival mechanism. So it is a bit wild and silly that they'd stay this primitive for so long, but they do. And I guess it's because none of them really grow up, and by the time they do, they're dead. So, and so it makes sense why some of their language and behavior hasn't grown up with them despite their ages.
Do they have running water, or do they bathe in lakes?
Yeah, none of these kinds of questions on how they lived and survived for so long, behaving the way they do. So, but I still give this one a B-.
I remember when I was a kid,
grade Star Trek low.
I remember when I was a kid wondering, where do these kids come from?
Well, they were born 315 years ago.
Yeah, they were born from adults, and the adults, they all died off because they tried to create the fountain of youth and some kind of disease that they made that ended up killing them off. And whenever the children finally grow up, then they die too.
Is it airborne? Is it based on fluid? What?
Where do the kids keep coming from, though?
No,
but they're just really old.
They don't multiply.
Right.
The kids are just the kids that were kids 300 years ago, and they only age a month every 100 years.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's a documentary.
No, it doesn't. But that's what the life prolongation project was for, is to make it so that you only age a month every 100 years. And it worked until you hit puberty and then you die.
Right.
Oh,
which is still a better explanation of how the transporter works.
Leonard Nimoy and Grace Lee Whitney both named this as one of their favorite episodes of the show.
Wow.
William Shatner was more critical, however, feeling that the story dragged and that the initial hook of Another Earth was interesting but didn't amount to anything.
Mm-hmm.
Said the man who directed Star Trek V.
And this episode also had two of Gene Roddenberry's children, Darlene and Dawn Roddenberry.
Oh, great. And Grilla says, you give this episode a B and Stranger Worlds an F? Yeah, because this story, it made sense to me, but I definitely like it a lot better than Strange Nude Worms, for sure. No kidding. But we can disagree. If you'd like to talk about it, I can send you a link.
Well, in Gorilla, like I'm probably the resident bad reboot apologist in the group. And yeah, this episode, this is a B. And I don't think that there is anything in Bad Reboot that is as good as Miri.
Mm-mm. Agreed.
Like I think that the tension of this episode is incredible. It did creep me out at times, and not for the relationship between Kirk and Miri, but just for the idea that there were children who were going to treat life and death like a game because all of the adults went feral and decided that they were going to kill them. They had to hide. You're basically dealing with a planet of Newt. And then when all the aliens die, what does Newt do? Like, and that's how they deal for 300 years. And they slowly eat and they figure out how to survive, basically. You know what? They probably do bathe in lakes.
Yeah,
But,
and so we don't get any of those details, but we do know
No.
basically that they've survived somehow.
But I still think that the questions that are posed in this single episode probably more interesting than, and like I don't think that modern Trek is as intellectually engaging for us to be able to have a full episode talking like, how did this work? What was that? I'm not
I would
criticizing it.
second
I'm
that
just
motion.
curious.
Yeah, exactly. Because at least when you have those questions, they may not be answered in the episode, but they give you that.
Also, I would like to say that I don't think that anyone in Strange Reboot would just be like, and what about the kids? Meh, leave them there.
Yeah, no.
Mhm.
They don't go into that much detail.
No,
or care.
Not only detail, but I don't think that they would be that callous to whatever just
No,
happened.
there really was a strange SNW episode where there was a child being tortured, and they're just leave him there.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's okay.
Also, the Orville. We had a child in a prison. They just left there.
Yep, that's
Mhm.
true.
And Tom Riker, he was left in a
Oh.
prison.
But no, she got rescued though, at least.
Tom Paris, you mean?
No, Tom
No.
Riker.
The Orville
Riker.
episode.
Yeah, Tom Riker. He stole the Defiant. He was sent to a Cardassian prison planet and was never heard
Wait,
from
wait a
again.
minute. Is this in Strange New Worlds?
No, that
this is
he's
in,
talking
Deep
about
Space
Deep Space Nine, and that's not
Oh.
a child. It's Riker's.
Oh, come on. Tom
Transporter
Riker is
people.
kind of a child.
transporter.
He's having a tantrum.
The transporter Riker
Yes.
Yes.
spin-off guy.
Yes. He
Mhm.
wasn't spin-off
I
guy.
must have missed that episode. I didn't see that. I
Oh,
really
dude.
wish they'd done a lot more with that character.
It's a great episode, but after that episode, you never hear from him again.
What's it called again?
The Defiant.
The Defiant. Cool.
Yes, that's a good
Learn
episode.
something new every day.
Except for the part where Thomas Riker goes away forever, and we never see or hear from him ever again.
Yeah.
But he does get to make out with Kira, which is dope.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, right. He knows he's going away to a labor camp, and that's his last chance to kiss. So, of course.
And Jill, for the next two, I think that you have to say what Edge of Time and Euler Greg say.
Mostly.
No, you can't say it. I'll start if you want me to. You have to say this in order because I think it's going to be fucking dope.
In order?
Yeah, you got to say it from, Edge of Time, then Euler Greg.
Yep.
They come out at night, mostly. Mostly.
There you go.
Good work. That was the best Carrie Henn impression I've heard in ever.
Here, here.
And Snortopoopa says, imagine a world 300 years old. Imagine a world of 300-year-old children who never play Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh,
I
they
think
had
I
plenty
would
of-
get bored after the first 100 years as a child.
Okay, so those were my final thoughts. Pop culture curator, what are yours?
I liked the episode. I didn't enjoy it as well when I was a kid, but knowing the background now, I enjoyed it really well. A little weak, and the comparison to Lord of the Flies is very obvious. But I think what's really mostly fascinating is its connection, in my opinion, with modern day COVID. So I would give this episode a B.
That's fair. And how about you, Scotty? R37?
I gave it a B. I gave it a B plus. Again, just because of the tension of the children. And, I did enjoy the makeup on the Grups who were all infected, the Louise and zombie tricycle guy. Like, that was good. It was a scary episode. I found it unsettling. It was almost like Village of the Damned kind of thing. And so.
Yep. Same
Yeah.
makeup guy from The Outer Limits.
Yeah, it could have been a
Oh.
horror.
Well, and that's
good references both.
And so I really enjoyed it. And I think that, seeing it as a kid, I thought it was boring, but watching it as an adult, and this is an episode that I've sort of avoided because I remember not liking it because it was boring. Watching it now, it was unsettling because I was, post-pubescent. And I was like, oh no, I would have
I'm a
those
Grup.
thoughts. I'm a Grup. Bonk, bonk on the head. I'm a Herbert.
I am not a Herbert.
I'm a human being.
And so after that, do you have any thoughts on this Cardinal Sin? I know you're a little late.
Late to the party. Yeah, like Scotty, when I was a kid, I thought it was really dumb. But I've learned a lot just listening and participating in indefinite lunch and indeterminate combinations. And I'll have to rewatch it.
Mm-hmm.
But from my memory, I would give it a D.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally.
And
But-
Snortapoop is... Oh, go ahead.
No, the only thing I would say, and when you're going into this episode, he may not be featured, but this is a Dr. McCoy episode. Don't forget.
Absolutely.
So is Sitting on the Edge of Forever, though.
Yes. What
Right.
is it? There was an old thing. I forget what it was. And it's like, even if I wasn't in a scene, everyone would be talking about me. This is perfect. Oh, it was Ricardo Montalban who said that about Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. When they said, do you want to be in this movie? We don't think you really want to be in this movie, said his management and agents. And he was like, what are you talking about? I just read the script. When I'm not on screen, all they do is talk about me. This is great. I want to be in this movie. And the same thing happens with McCoy and City on the Edge of Forever. And the importance of McCoy's work in Miri, same deal.
Did you know that on The Wrath of Khan, neither Ricardo Montalban nor William Shatner were able to act to each other? They just had to, act against like a line girl.
Yes, that's right. They were never in the same room or in the same area. So yes, they had to.
I think that makes their performances even better, really, when you take that into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
It is. And I do appreciate it. There is something, I don't know. There's something, I did get the opportunity to see Wrath of Khan in the theater. And there's something about watching it and then just completely forgetting about any production issues and just being taken to the 23rd century and seeing what's presented to you. Like, I've read all that stuff and I've absorbed all that stuff. But when I can sit and watch a Star Trek movie and forget all that stuff, I am so happy.
Yeah, I had the same experience just a few months ago, seeing it in the theater. And it's a completely immersive experience. And I cried like a baby when Spock died.
That's the only thing I can't drop. That's the only suspension of disbelief that I can't drop. I'm like, he'll be back.
Yeah, well, we know he'll be back.
Yeah, I cried the first time.
I've cried to just regular episodes of Star Trek many times.
Oh, me too.
I cry like a baby when it comes to Star Trek.
But unlike people who had to see...
Oh, the first time.
Yeah, unlike people who had to watch it when it was released, I got to watch Wrath of Khan and then put in Star Trek 3 and get Spock back instantly.
I got to see
The
it when it
first time.
came out and when it had the 40th anniversary. That's how old I am.
Like, I think I saw Star Trek 3 first and then Star Trek 2. I don't remember.
That
Star
would
Trek
sort
is
of
just-
spoil it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it wouldn't matter. I would have been 6. So,
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The emotional weight wasn't there for the death of Spock. So knowing that he was going to come back was like, all right, well, he's always around.
I wonder how many takes it took for Shatner to get it right when he said, of all the souls I've encountered in my journeys, his was the most human.
It's an excellent question. He does have Star Trek movie memories, the memoir.
Mm-hmm.
And
I read it.
I'm not sure if he touches on it. It's been so long since I've read it.
Yeah,
so,
me too.
But he probably I don't know. I would hope that he does touch on that scene.
It's a good scene. Although thinking back on it, I think that Spock would take issue with what he said, that his soul was the most human. I think that, in TOS, he would have said something like, I don't think that I deserve that sort of insult, Captain.
Well, it's interesting because just recently I watched this episode of Deep Space Nine. I'm sorry, I'm getting off of the TOS. I'm sort of going all over Star Trek. But Jill, you were watching on your Cosme channel. You were watching Deep Space Nine episodes, and there was a one where this Vedic named Barile, he gets into a shuttle accident. They replace his brain with positronics, and then there is a moment.
Yeah, half his brain.
Half of his brain. And Kira, who is the executive officer of Deep Space Nine, she's Bajoran, is standing there and saying, well, why don't you do it to the rest of his brain so he stays alive? And then Bashir, a human, augmented, spoilers, says, if I do that, it's going to take away his humanity.
His spark of life.
Yeah, but he refers to it as... Yeah, but he refers to it as humanity. They're Bajorans. They were Bajoranad.
But honestly, there was no reason why they couldn't have just put him back in stasis at that moment to try to figure something out later.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Like Professor
but the whole point of
Moriarty?
that episode was to give I forget Fletcher's Vedic name now.
Kai Wynn,
thank you. To give Kai Wynn a win, if you will, pardon the pun, to complete the Cardassian negotiations that Vedic Barile had really begun and
and show how completely selfish she is, to show another part of her evil.
Yeah, and she takes credit for it. But yes, we are way off of TOS.
Anyway,
no, that's okay. Well, we're done. We gave our reviews. All I have to do now is show the reviews for the chat. We had a poll going in the chat, so I can bring that up in just a moment here.
Outstanding.
Yeah, and then we'll be done with our review today. So today we have 22 votes. Let me share this before I
thank you to everyone who voted.
Yeah, thank you to everyone who voted. I'm going to be closing the poll as soon as I can share this. Share my screen and the tab. Go.
Oh, is it 50-50?
Score.
Is it a tie?
No, it's not a tie. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll now.
Okay. So B to B plus, we got 50%. D to F, D plus to F, we got a 9.
An error occurred, so I'm just going to try to refresh the chat here and try again. An error occurred. It won't let me in the poll for some reason.
I think that's a pretty good result in any case.
You should leave it up forever.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. What happens if you don't end the poll?
Well, then I'm gonna have to
come back and deal with it later.
I'm gonna have to refer back to the video and then just type out the results.
Okay.
No,
but
that's what I have
gave
to
it
do.
a B plus or higher is pretty high marks.
Well, I thought it was creepy, and I thought it was unsettling, and I thought it was a good adventure with a precursor to zombies. So,
I agree.
Also, Dr. McCoy, MVP. Yeah. Bye, Janice. We'll see you again in Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Yeah, no kidding.
Mhm. Where she's going to be terrified by what happens with the transporter.
She does kill a guy. Yeah, 2 people actually.
Well, not
Do
not
you know why
intentionally.
she left the show?
Yes.
Yeah.
We did
Yes.
discuss it. I don't know if I want to talk about it again, so I don't need to be dismissive.
I didn't know that I was late to the party.
Well, it's like traumatic. She was assaulted, and then she devolved into drugs and alcohol. She cleaned herself up. It sounds like she made peace with her career, and she lived long enough to be on an episode of Star Trek Voyager, and then
I
passed
did
away.
not know that she was
Yeah.
assaulted.
Yeah. So we
Yeah.
talked about
And
it
then-
earlier.
And for that assault, she was fired
Yeah.
Oh, really?
instead of the person who committed the crime.
Like, imagine one of the most brutal episodes of Mad Men about the dismissal of a female coworker, but put them all in Star Trek uniforms.
So it's like a
there you go.
reverse Me Too.
No, it was very much a Me Too.
Oh,
Except
Just
she
no
didn't.
one-
She
no
never
one
said
said
who
anything.
it was.
So yeah, it was just dismissed, and that's
but
the
she
kind
got
of thing-
fired for it.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, she
Well,
was written out
That's not a Me Too.
by. Well, I think that if you're involved in a sexual assault and then it costs your career because you're not as powerful.
Oh yeah, I see
an
what you're saying.
entertainer,
Yeah.
then that would be something that the Me Too movement was actually, hey, sexual assault happens and it's covered up because some people have more money. That sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that is a real shame. I really loved her character, and I wanted to see more of her and Captain Kirk.
I think a lot of us wanted to see more of her.
Have a great day, Herc 130.
See, Herc.
Yes, goodbye, Herc 130. He
Goodbye,
says,
Herc.
I have to go. Don't want to. Have to. Good day, all. Great panel today. I had fun. Bye, all.
Well, thank you.
Boy.
Thanks for being
Bye.
here.
And so since I can't end the poll, I'll just recite it. We had 22 votes today. 27% gave it A to A plus, but winning was B to B plus. So half of people, 50% gave it a B. 14% gave it a C, and only 9% gave it a D to an F.
Thank you for participating in our election.
What's
Oh
the
my
difference
goodness.
between B minus and C plus? Really? When you think about it?
I would say crappier makeup.
No, I mean poll wise.
Oh,
C plus
No, I think-
B minus is kind of the same thing, really.
no, I think if
True,
you put it
but,
in the category of C and then the category of B, the plus and the minus is like a positive. Like, I don't want to give it just a C.
Yeah,
I want to give it a little extra.
when I was a kid, I was
Mhm.
okay if I got a B minus, but if I got a C plus, I was devastated. So
Right.
there you go.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Good answer.
Thank you so much, Matt G. Tips are not expected, but appreciated.
Is this the first one on screen?
And the first one
Today?
today, yeah.
Yay.
So,
Oh, right. People were tipping all over the place at your 300.
Sort of Poopa says B minus means the teacher likes you and is trying to be nice. And yes, that's exactly what I think why I gave this episode a B minus and not a C plus. And Matt says F plus. Lol.
Yeah, I didn't vote in the poll because I was late to the party and I haven't seen it since I was a kid because I've always hated
That's
this
fair.
episode.
Mhm. I'm
There
going to
you
try and
go.
do the poll one more time. No, it still doesn't work. That's okay. So let me scroll up here and see where we were.
Don't worry. Polls will close.
Yeah, I agree.
And Snortopoopas Cuber says, you would run out of foolies to keep your minds occupied. I think the kids would have much more serious mental issues if they survived that long. Yeah, there's lots of issues with them living for 300 years. Agreed.
Das B.
And he also says, I remember reading the director of Wrath of Khan saying that he would have Shatner do multiple takes until he was so tired that he would calm down and stop being so over the top.
That's true.
Whoa, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So just tire out Shatner. That's a trick.
He made him do like 35 takes of a certain scene so he wouldn't keep doing the dramatic pause.
Which is so, like, it's so interesting because then you look at his performance in Star Trek 3, and I think it's far superior to...
I haven't seen Star Trek 3 in so long.
Star Trek 2 is good. Like, it's really, really good. But Shatner's performance in Star Trek 3, I think, is his most natural.
Yeah, I need to see it again.
Yeah, I don't really watch it to analyze Shatner's performance in terms of how theatrical he's being.
Well, no, but I enjoy the performances. And again, once you've watched Star Trek for a long time, there are parts and you're like, you stop paying attention to different, like, it's like, you know what? I'm just going to look at Walter Koenig, this entire movie, and see what he does. And that's what you pay attention to. Like I don't know.
That's a great way to do
the
it.
suspension of disbelief. You just focus on something different.
Yeah. And then sometimes and it's the times that I get to go and see it in the theater and it all just washes over me and I have nowhere to go. But the entire reason I'm there is to watch a Star Trek movie. And it's like, all right, everything gets me now. And that's when, that's the suspension of disbelief. And that's when I don't give a hootenanny if there are any, you know what? I would probably see Star Trek Nemesis in the theater again and just be like, all right, let it go. Relax.
Me too. If they showed it in the theater, I would watch it. I really like that movie, actually.
Well, I accept your apology.
One of my one of my favorite parts of that movie is when Picard asks the very young Tom Hardy why he brought him there, and he said, "I was lonely."
Yeah.
That was a great line.
Yeah, I really do want to see all of Star Trek, all 10 movies in the theater. I've only seen one and two in the theater, so it would be really cool to collect all of them. So I would go back for Nemesis 2 just for that. And Snortopoopus Cuber reminds us that Whitney's last appearance was in the background of the episode "The Conscience of the King," which is the next episode next week.
Really?
Yeah.
Which that's kind of funny. If she's going to be a background character, it would be sort of, well, akin. Let's not say similar. But
that'll be on last Monday.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, right.
But that's kind of like when the last appearance of Denise Crosby. She was just in the background and got to wave goodbye.
But they really did a lot with her later that I thought was pretty clever.
They did.
Bringing her back.
They did, as both herself and her daughter.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Euler Greg says Yeoman Rand was a favorite of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And Snortopoopus says, yeah, I read that one. And Matt G says, invest in a timeshare and send the profits to Jill. Don't do that, and don't cash out your 401k either.
The company that I worked for stole my 401k and all the people that worked there.
Oh my God, no
It
way.
was
That's
horrible.
awful.
Yeah.
You don't still work for them?
No.
Okay. That's terrible.
Now I work for YouTube.
And then Claude Parrish says the TV Guide had a special entry for Turnabout Intruder. They said the episode showcased Shatner's acting ability. Could have just said, tonight, Kirk's a girl.
Actually, I thought his acting in that episode was really good.
I don't know.
I don't know either, but I'm
I
gonna
haven't
save
seen
it.
it in a while.
I'm gonna save it for
I
when
thought
we
it
get
was
there,
really,
because
good.
I have a utter hatred for it, but maybe I'll feel better when I analyze it closely.
Oh, speaking of utter hatred, Jill, what are we talking about on Friday?
Westworld, the movie.
Okay.
Oh.
I didn't know if it was going to be Westworld or Wesley. I wasn't sure.
Shut up, Westworld.
I've got a lot to prepare for that.
For the Wesley episode?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
and a lot of terrible episodes to watch.
Yep, that is a lot.
So that one is not on any kind of time schedule. It's just going to be dangling around until I say I'm ready.
It's just a dare.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Are you going to do Future World after that?
After Westworld?
Yeah.
No, probably not.
I don't know.
I don't even know.
I've never
I haven't
seen
even
it.
heard of Future World.
Future
Really?
World's
It's
the
the
sequel to
second-
Westworld, yeah.
Yeah, starring Peter Fonda wasn't really that good. That's why you probably
It
haven't
wasn't
heard
as good as the one with Yul Brynner.
Yeah.
Yul Brynner is in
Oh.
Future World.
Oh,
he
that's
is-
right. I forgot.
Right. But it's just that it took place mostly underground, and it was basically a rehash of the first movie, so it wasn't financially profitable.
It actually informed the series, the HBO series, which had a really good first season, and after that, didn't.
I don't know. Future
Interesting.
World is only $20.
Not only that, though, but a lot of the props from Future World ended up on the Bionic Woman as fembots.
I don't know. I'm not making that decision right now, but thank you for the suggestion, Cardinalson.
Oh no,
did-
I found it. I
I-
found it for $10.
Oh my god. Okay, well, I don't control what movie Scotty buys, so he
No,
can buy
I'm
the
buying it
movies that
now.
but
It
I'm
was
not,
only $9, Jill.
but it's not
Did you
guaranteed.
get that on Amazon, Scotty?
No, I got it from the local haberdasher.
Oh, good.
There you are.
But it's not guaranteed I'm going
Here's
to
a
have a
hat,
show
and
about
you
it.
get a free copy of Future World.
Exactly. It looks good on you, though.
Yeah, it fits perfectly into the hat box.
Well, no, I have Westworld. It only makes sense for me to have the sequel.
Of course.
So that was shopping with Scotty.
That's only natural. That was exciting. So Euler Greg says Turnabout Intruder is actually a pretty good episode. It has a great Scotty scene.
It's
Okay,
got a
well-
great Scotty scene.
We'll see
Oh,
when that happens.
Yeah.
That'll be a sad day. Even though I don't know if I like the episode, I'm gonna be sad because that'll be the end.
Did you, Jill? Did you like
Yeah.
the TNG episode Relics?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I love Relics. It is
And
green.
I really liked how they left it open ended. You know, when he leaves the show, he's still going to his retirement.
But I
you know,
think they could
colony.
have given him a cooler ship.
Yes, they could have, but still.
That's my only complaint.
Yeah, I was
He
wondering,
would've-
wasn't that shuttle they gave him short range?
He would have pimped it out in a matter of minutes. He
That's
would have got
true.
in here and been like, all right, computer.
I'm at warp 9.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of stuff going on as soon as he leaves the Enterprise. And he's like, all right, let's make this thing work.
Yeah.
Final line of original Trek.
If only.
If only. Okay. Stop making me sad for a series that isn't even close to over yet.
Yeah, let's talk about what about the kids? Nah, leave them there.
Yeah, just leave them there. They'll be fine.
They're fine.
We'll send some teachers, the school teachers over there.
Captain, we did build a Chuck E. Cheese.
Snartapoopa says, I'll save my comment for a Turnabout Intruder for when we review that one, but I think Kirk's last line is so bittersweet. And yeah, Euler Greg said it too.
I wonder what would
miss-
happen if we came back to this planet in 100 years to see what would sprout from the seeds that you dropped today.
Wow. That's some good quoting, Cardinalson. Impressive.
Actually, I missed the quote. It was planted today.
Close enough. Closer than I could.
Why?
I'd get 0 of those words right. So
I think I saw the episode recently.
I think oh neat. Okay, so actually at this point I need to close out the show. It's almost 3:00.
Oh, are we live?
Yeah, we're still
Oh,
live.
okay. All right.
Well, I wanted to thank everybody for thank everybody in the chat, and thank you, Jill, for having me on the panel. once
And me,
again.
thank you.
And me, thank you.
Yeah. So pop culture curator, would you like to plug your channel? Tell us what you do. You're on YouTube.
Sure, thank you. I have the animated series reviews with Jill, Scotty, myself, and usually Gorilla's Random Thoughts on Mondays. And I had you'll find me on Jill's Tuesday streams of Star Trek: The Original Series, and I have Gilligan's Island stream currently on Wednesdays, which I guess I'm going to try to find another time slot for. Thank you, Jill. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And so, Scotty?
I'm hanging out on the Phantasmagorium show when we do shows, which is usually on Wednesday night. We're moving for nobody. We don't care. And so this week we'll be doing either Inglourious Bastards or Desperado or both. I don't know. But we are going to be talking about what our next series of films is going to be, which I'm excited to say, if I haven't already.
Yeah, and I agree with not moving because you can't you're always going to have to stream over somebody, and it's
well, I
it's a
originally
difficult
picked
thing.
Wednesday because I thought it was safe, but then I guess somebody else took it. Since
No,
like Doomcock says, it's a big internet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If you don't like the temperature of the pool over there, come over to our side. Who cares?
There you go.
Everybody, I the support of the community is great, but also I don't know what plays on Thursdays. All I know that on Thursdays I go and hang. And actually, Cardinal Sin, this might piss you off. No, I go over and I talk about Quantum Leap with Jill, and we've been going through.
We've been doing it for weeks.
Yeah,
talking about Quantum Leap on Thursdays,
and so that's fun.
Yeah.
Who else? Who else streams on Thursdays?
Why, I do.
Heavens.
But at different times, so it is.
What about Sundays? Does anybody stream on Sunday evenings now that Doomcock is not there?
Only Jesus.
Maybe I'll move it to Sundays. I don't know.
Mark D with the C has Sunday Night Greekery at 10 p.m. But you can.
Oh, good. The way I'll be done before that. 10 p.m. your time.
Yeah, 10 p.m. my time.
We do have a time slot available at 5 a.m. on Tuesday if you'd like it.
I'll think about it.
All right.
Sure.
$7.
Whatever you like. And now my phone's telling me to go, so I'll be going soon.
But Cardinal Sin,
yeah,
what do you
tell
do?
us about your great channel.
Oh, why, thank you. My channel can be found at youtube.com/cardinalsin. I have lots of different shows, and tomorrow I will be featuring Micah Hanks on Into the Fringe.
Oh, Micah Hanks. That's a smart guy.
He's great.
And it's a great show.
Thank you.
Talking about the paranormal and unexplained events.
UFOs and such.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
Well, you're passionate about it. It's a good show.
Yeah, you've been talking to people about it since the 90s, right?
Oh, since before that, yeah.
Oh, wow.
The 80s?
I put on UFO lectures in the 90s.
That's what I'm thinking of, are the lectures that you used to have. I've seen part of a video that you showed of one time.
Yeah, you can find those in the Into the Fringe playlist at the very, very beginning, like 1 through 6.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's where I remember them from then.
Stanton Friedman and those kind of folks.
And Snartapoopus says, someday I'll do a live stream between 2 and 2:01 a.m. every other Saturday in October.
Yeah.
That's actually taken. You can't do that one.
Triple Fizbin.
Oh, no, you have a shrunk. How lucky you are.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I'm
Thank
sorry.
you
You
for
don't
the
remember
link,
the rules
Jill.
of Fizbin? Anyway.
It's an alternate Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that episode when we get to it.
All right. Well, can we see some Shakespeare?
Shakespeare.
All right, we get a preview for next week.
Oh, right. Preview for The Conscience of the King. Yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, so.
All right. Good night, everybody, and thank you for being here.
Cheers.
Yeah. And.
Oh, and bonk bonk on the head.
Bonk, bonk.
Bana, 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 bonk bonk on the head. Bana, bana.
Captain's log, stardate 2817.2. Suspicion that a famous actor is in reality Kodos, the mass executioner, places the Enterprise and her crew in grave danger.
Riley, get back to the sick bay. Kodos is dead. I'm satisfied with that.
Well, I'm not. That voice, a bloody thing he did.
Riley's gone. I was recording my log about Caridian and Kodos. If he overheard...
You've made your point, Doctor. You were very impressive as Lady Macbeth.
And is Lenore Caridian?
Very impressive.
Almost certainly an attempt will be made to kill you. Why do you invite death?
There's a phaser on overload in my quarters. If it blows, it'll take out the entire deck.